Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, and your facilitator here at the AstroPub, the Captain's Table, where I bring people all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen. Sometimes we'll talk about news and theory crafting. Sometimes we'll talk about specific topics. We just kind of talk about Star Citizen, and we've been doing so for over 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
This is a problem. I've been doing this for 8 years, and
is it a problem or a feature at this point?
I don't know, and that's the problem. I don't know the difference. So today I am joined by two very long friends, long-held friends.
Long.
They're very long. They're long boys. Talking about a feature in the game that's just been added to 3.23 in terms of testing and experimental testing. But before we get to that point, I want to introduce the folks here. I'm going to start with you. HC Vertigo, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Oh, well, I'm a content creator here over on Twitch. I'm kind of like a variety streamer now these days, I guess. Started out doing a lot of Star Citizen. But, you know, Star Citizen, that weird time of year where it's kind of like we're in between big updates, so we're enjoying all the latest releases like Helldivers 2 and stuff like that. But we've been dipping into engineering and the latest P2 recently, talking about that stuff. So we also do a little bit of YouTube content. I put up some YouTube shorts just recently, some Helldivers stuff we had happen recently. Also on Instagram, Discord, that kind of places. So HE Vertigo pretty much everywhere. Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. That's where you can find me. Usually early mornings on the Pacific time zone, 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m. is usually we're live on Twitch most days.
Okay. And then we have the primary bartender, space bartender from his tiki shack, Mr. Fairasalt. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hi, I'm Fairasalt. I am on Twitch, though I am also trying to put up shorts and longer format content on YouTube. But I've been saying that for about 8 years now, so I wouldn't believe me. I do lots of Star Citizen. I also do some other vehicle-based games like DCS recently and VTOL VR and the like. It is something I've been doing for nearly 10 years at this point, which is downright horrifying.
Yeah.
And, mostly Star Citizen though. So
yeah, it's just been one of my revelations. It's like, oh yeah, I've been doing Captain's Table for 8 years. That's about as long as my my partnership has been. Which means I've been streaming Star Citizen for over 10, or streaming in general for over 10 years. It's a weird feeling. I've spent a decade doing this. I was in my 20s when I started.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I know, right?
The topic for today is engineering. So CIG released a preview of engineering in the Arena Commander modules for us to test. It is a very bare bones basic thing, but I think it can also tell us about, like, how to put this. It almost certainly will tell us a little bit about how CIG is approaching the problem of engineering, or approaching the gameplay of engineering, and where it's going to go from here. So I'll start with you, Fairasalt. Just your general experience with engineering, your initial impressions. It doesn't have to be anything detailed, but, like, do you like it? Is there issues with it?
I mean, engineering to me, with what they've implemented right now, which is functionally speaking just fuses and routing, I can see where they're going with it, and I appreciate the idea if they want to give crews more to do, and to encourage more multiplayer content through having to consistently and persistently put out fires, metaphorically and physically.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I know it's being like overdone right now for the Arena Commander mode, so I don't have any issue with how often things fail, because again, it's just for testing. But I can see where they're going with it. I like the idea of it. The implementation right now is exceptionally jank.
Yeah,
but that's also fine.
Yeah, it's like, the first pass.
absolutely certain Star Citizen wouldn't push a content release to live that was jank.
Never.
Never,
Never.
ever has we ever had a terrible release in Star Citizen. Well, never ever since the release of 3.18.
Yeah. Vertigo, same question to you. Your initial impressions of engineering gameplay.
It's like Fairasalt said, it's jank. The UI doesn't work. I had the initial impression that you couldn't actually repair components until we took a deeper dive into it. It turns out the person who's on foot trying to repair the component doesn't actually have UI that displays that you're repairing your component.
Even if you aim, it still doesn't show up that it's repaired.
It doesn't indicate that you're repairing it.
Yeah.
But if you go to the engineering terminal in the cockpit of the A2 and you look at it there, it says you repaired it. But you have to get off the terminal, get back onto the terminal, or for the terminal to refresh and actually display the new health total. So it has issues, obviously. And basically what CIG released is like, here's what we're going for, right, folks? Here's kind of like, a broad overview of it. All the specifics can change. Mostly it's just repairing or replacing fuses that bust when you take damage. So I see where CIG's going with this. I've played other games similar, and it kind of does live up to my expectations. Like, this is kind of how I expected it to go. I'm disappointed that we're using beams to repair components. You switch the salvage tool from salvage to repair, and you spray magic stuff, nanotechnology at the power plant, and the power plant gets more hit points. It works. Other games have done the exact same thing in the past. It's easy to program. You don't have like distance and desync and whatnot with like an animation that the players get stuck in. I don't know if everyone's ever played a game called Guns of Icarus.
Yes.
Years ago. Kind of the same stuff. You were using a wrench to slap a power plant to get it repaired.
You'd literally just smack something with a wrench is what it was, the animation. So
like I like the idea where CIG is going with this. I don't know if if you want to go deeper into this like later on in the podcast, but there's a lot of stuff I can talk about.
We're going to go more
I like where we're going. The direction that this is going is where I expected, like with CIG talked about how ships were going to have components and whatnot inside of them. So I'm somewhat pleased by it. The way it currently works, not pleased, but I know a lot of the numbers can be changed around a little bit to make it more enjoyable experience. But obviously CIG has one way they're going with it, and I think they should be going in another direction. But everybody has an opinion, right, Paul?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everyone's opinion is like their buttholes. They don't think it stinks,
Yeah.
But I in the initial, my initial kind of impression of it after seeing it was, holy shit, this is a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be, in terms of just like how much in depth they were going for. And I do think that to a degree, a lot of this is just they're putting it out there now. And the reason why it looks complicated is because it's just the bare basic versions, like less than 6 months old, sort of like the first pass at doing everything. And they're just putting it out there for us to test. But it's also clear that they're taking inspirations from all of the games that I thought they should take inspirations from. Things like Sea of Thieves, Pulsar, it's Guns of Icarus, Black Wake, those sorts of games where the engineering, the actual repairing process of the game isn't complicated. It's pretty simple. Push, beam, go. But when you add the complexity of a ship to that repair situation, all you have to do is fire a beam at a power plant. But when you have two power plants that are on fire, you have to determine, are you going to try to repair them or pull out the fire first, or which one do you want to... There's going to be
more coming later down the pipeline. But obviously, like we didn't get enough people. That was another problem I had with this. We couldn't get enough people into Arena Commander to actually fully test this system, and there's like a lot of jank with it in it. My experience with it is like, hey, you one person want to come help me test this for the podcast I'm going to be on tomorrow? So obviously there's going to be more running around the ship and whatnot,
Yeah.
and having to repair multiple power plants, multiple components and whatnot from inside the ship. Plus there's components outside the ship like the guns and whatnot, and missile launchers and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's going to
The
be a
ship that we've got
lot of
invested in right now is mostly on one level.
yeah. Plus you got fuses and whatnot you have to repair. You have to open your inventory up and slot fuses in. So it's going to be a little more hectic when you actually have proper crew working for you.
You have to shout where things are breaking, bring people around, that kind of stuff. I guess I should kind of explain a little bit of this, because I shouldn't assume that people understand what engineering is, because I've already seen some people in chat going, wait, what are you talking about? In 3.23, in Arena Commander, there is a mode called Engineering Test or something like that, and there are different ways you can play it. You can do it like in Team Arena, in Free Flight, and whatever. And that experimental mode of this engineering mode is the version that they showed off on CitizenCon last year. So it's almost exactly the same mode with the exact same setup of Gladiuses versus an A2, just directly stripped from that.
And if you have access to Wave 2, or you're a subscriber, you can go test this mode right now.
Right now. And it will be available when 3.23 launches to live. You'll still be able to test it live when it comes in there too. And
hopefully with live, we'll have much higher player bases trying it out, at least for the first couple of weeks.
Yes. But to give the very basic rundown, there are two modes. There's room mode and there's component mode. I can't remember the thing. So I think it's called like power mode or something like that. And the room mode is designed for maintaining oxygen and pressure, which isn't in this build, I don't think. But you can see because you can actually click like doors open and close, so you can do things like open and close doors to like the atmosphere
and component doors as well. You can, for the A2 has those doors that close over like its power plant and coolers and shield generators. You can manually open those doors from the engineering panel, as well as the doors for the people walking through the ship too.
Yeah. And with the component mode, you can just see how much power something is getting. So you can see if something is underpowered or fully powered, or if something's damaged. And you can see all of the components, from the batteries and the power plants and the shield generators to things like the guns, the coolers, the sensors. All of the components that your ship has are displayed there, including their statuses. So, and there's these lines that run from each of the parts of the ship, which are basically the indication of power. And at each of these points, you have one that starts in the cockpit and goes back to like the middle of the kind of the neck of the A2. And then that point then splits off into points that are going to different parts of the ship, and they go off to different parts of the ship. Those are relays. So you have power basically with the power lines. So you have like a single power line that goes from your cockpit to the back of the ship, and then the back of the ship, when it reaches the end of that hallway, it splits off into two. So some of it powers the stuff below on the first deck, some of it kind of goes up to the second deck, and leads back to all of the different components in the back of the ship. And that sort of feature, that setup, is designed so that if you pull a fuse from one of those relays, it basically turns off those relays. So if you pull the fuse out of the front of the ship, it will turn your ship's engines off. Because it'll basically like turn off your control of the ship. So your ship will just, if you're in atmosphere, it'll just fall.
we saw that a couple times. Like as one of the complaints that I have for CIG is like it is way too easy to disable the A2 by shooting the neck, knocking out those fuses. As soon as those fuses get knocked out, the pilot has no control. But of course, like this whole system assumes that the A2 is going to be fully crewed. Yes. And there's going to be someone out there who's going to be able to slot in a fuse, or the pilot's going to get out, slot that fuse in. By the time that happens, it's too late. Yeah. But your shields are down. You've knocked that fuse out. By the time someone gets up and replaces that fuse, like you're already dead. Like the shields are down. You're taking whole damage. That fuse is going to get knocked out again, or something else is going to get out again.
That's assuming that with the bullet penetration they're working on right now, the person repairing it doesn't get murked by whatever shot you anyway.
Yeah, I have an interesting anecdote about that from another pay-to-win game, Nexon game. Called Navy Field. This is a game that's over 20 years old, I want to say, but it's a isometric top-down ship game where you're controlling a little ship from like World War I, World War II, And you had special captains and crew you could hire for real money that would make your crew better over time. So you'd get experience by defeating, like completing the match against other teams and whatnot. And your crew would level up, and the more your crew leveled up, the better your crew would get at like various top speed, acceleration, like your gun dispersion. And there was a German ship, I believe, that could equip flak guns, these really special high velocity rapid fire flak guns. And there was a strat at the time I was playing where you could sail up to a battleship, a top tier battleship that had the crew fully maxed out, and you could use these rapid fire flak guns to decimate their crew, which would de-level their entire ship. It would take they would lose hundreds of dollars and hundreds of hours worth of playtime from this attack, and it was just the nastiest shit. There was like tons of salt on that's basically the same thing that's going to happen to Star Citizen. If you could pull up next to an A2 and kill all the crew, because you know where all the turret gunners are on the A2.
Mhm.
You know where the pilot is. You know where the co-pilot is. If you know the internal layout of an A2, you know exactly where to put the bullets.
Yeah.
And thanks to Master Mode, that has slowed combat down dramatically, plus precision aim, you can put shots where you want them to. Like, it's not that hard. So you could easily pick out, especially in atmosphere where things are even slower, you could easily knock the shields down on one side of an A2 and just kill everybody in the turret gunner seats.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, the A2 would be great at doing that to other ships because you can just broadside them with the bottom of the thing.
Oh yeah, just show your bottom. Yeah.
So, it's an interesting, like, my initial thoughts are basically it's fairly complicated. It's buggy. There are like straight up things that do not work with it, which you think should have worked. But I am looking forward to where it's going. And I'm going to ask the big question at the end of the kind of discussion before we get into the question and answers. Because I do think that it answers a lot of questions about the thing that CIG has very clearly said they're not trying to do, but it is also proving that they are indeed where I believe they are going in terms of how multi-crew is going to work in Star Citizen and its relation to solo play. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit more about the negatives of this. I'll start with you, Vertigo. What are your negatives? What are your critiques of this currently in terms of how it's currently implemented and how you can see this moving forward? The things that CIG might need to
I talked about the potential of like sniping crew, and that's something I think CIG needs to like not let happen ever. Like taking NPC crew, fine. You could hurt NPC crew a little bit or something. Don't let players get hurt through the ship by weapons fire. That's gonna suck. The big takeaway, how it works right now, is an A2 cannot be fully powered. You cannot have every system turn on in an A2 and have the batteries charged. That's not how I imagined the system working. How I imagined how it would work is everything would be able to run, the batteries would charge, so that when you go into combat initially, like you're the most powerful. That's your most powerful stat, right? You come out of the hangar out of like Baijini Point or something, because CIG doesn't know how to spell Baijini. That's why I picked Baijini. The last one was at Star Citizen Live.
Yep.
They pronounced the Baijini weird.
Yeah.
Baijini Point or something. So you spawn your first spawn of your Hercules A2 Starlifter. Come out of that, it's flawless, fully repaired, 100% everything. That is your strongest the ship is ever going to be. And then you go to Jump Town. And there's an Ares Inferno, there's a Gladius, there's an Arrow, there's a Super Hornet, there's a Gladiator, and you get into a big furball. And then as the fight continues, you slowly start to degrade in performance as components take damage. And then you have people running around repairing stuff. And then, as your power plant takes damage, your battery backups kick in to help take up the slack.
The load.
That's how I imagine batteries happening. But right now, what CIG wants you to do is they want you to start turning stuff off to charge the batteries, and then you can turn stuff back on for a few minutes, or less than a minute, really. You don't have a lot of battery backup. But for me, the battery should be auxiliary power like it is in like Star Trek, where you either slot the auxiliary power to a system to bolster its effectiveness, or you use it to take up the slack if the power plant isn't enough.
I'm going to jump in a little bit and say I think the way that it should be balanced is that smaller ships shouldn't have the power to power everything. So that way you don't have fighters which are incredibly overpowered. But I do think the larger ships, because you're already penalized because of having to have all these the crew members, should be able to have those like larger, because it's larger surface area, so it makes a little bit more sense.
It should be more. Maybe it's more taxing on your power plants. Your power plants produce more heat,
or
you can't run that for very long.
Yeah, to wear and tear high faster, so you use more repairs. There's ways you can balance it without being like you don't get all the power. So
there's heat, wear and tear. Those are two systems that could help balance the system better than just like, oh, your batteries drain out completely if you have everything on. But yeah, there should be a reason to not like in Star Trek for a reason. They don't run their shields and weapons all the time. Yeah. Usually they have what's called deflectors, which is deflectors are separate from shields, and they're designed to push away meteorites and whatnot, small debris from
they're like
the ship.
really low power shields. They're
really low power, but really long range shields. It's this beam of energy they shoot in front of the Enterprise to like push away micrometeorites and stuff, so it doesn't impact the hull while they're in warp speed or impulse. Yes,
Nerd.
Omega dust displacers.
Nerd.
Yeah, okay, yes, okay, you're
nerd.
Guys. Okay, I'm a Star Trek fan. Okay,
I am too. I knew exactly what you're talking about when you saw say the deflector beam, so I know. But
there you go.
But letting you explain the whole thing was incredibly entertaining.
Yeah. Fair assault.
Let's hear
your negatives. What do you have negatives right now, and what can you foresee as being a problem in the future with the current system?
I mean, what Vertigo's on is pretty much right moment in that you shouldn't have to underclock or depower items to make them to make the ship functional on the whole. The other thing is it heavily de-incentivizing non-combat multi-role ships because we're combining master modes where it's very easy to intercept someone with the need for someone to be running around putting out fires whilst also defending yourself. It's extremely limiting, because the other part of it is that a lot of, in my personal opinion, a lot of the community are heavily overestimating how many people are willing to run around on their ship instead of flying that person's own ships. So the fact that you have something to do when you are intercepted is great, but at the same time, if you're in like a Hull C, which is a very common ship, apparently you're going to need like 6 people.
I wouldn't say the Hull C is a common ship.
It's supposed to be.
In the game, it's
in lore, it's
the most common ship. Yeah, but in terms of like player-owned versions, there's not that many of them. That's kind of like my challenge, is that having to manage crew expectations with you only really need that many people when something goes wrong, but at the same time we accept that things are going to go wrong all the dang time.
Yeah, that was kind of like one of my thoughts I was thinking about bringing up, but didn't want to monopolize time too much. But yeah, just the A2 feels like it takes damage when the shields go down. Like you take damage to fuses
fast,
stupidly fast.
And
most of the time when you get engaged in a non-combat ship, your shields are down because you're in nav mode trying to scoot away.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. Is that like the combination of the new ways that the gameplay plays and the system is definitely not balanced for one another.
Yeah. I actually mentioned this on my stream like yesterday. It was like, I am thankful CIG has delayed hangars and personal hangars and freight elevators specifically, because master mode is going to be this massive change to the game, and then freight elevators are going to be this other massive change to how you set yourself up to be prepared to go into the universe, and then engineering's coming down the line too, and you're going to potentially do the new game experience for like Star Wars Galaxies, which is way too much of a shock for like way too much of a change for the community to absorb in one go. So you have master modes coming out. It's like, okay, people can adjust to that, give feedback on that, and then freight elevators are going to change how that plays, right?
Yeah. Again, it's going to be interesting with all the non-combat stuff where your downtime at these outposts to do trading is going to be massively increased by manual cargo handling, whilst at the same time you need to be on the ship repairing it when someone does engage you.
Yeah. We really need NPC crew available.
I will agree that I think that currently, because I kind of like just estimated when I was doing testing, what I estimated was you need one person on engineering console, 1 to 2 people on the top deck of the A2, and 1 person on the bottom deck of the A2. So you need 4 people just to do engineering. That's not including the pilot, the co-pilot, and the gunner. So that's now you've turned your 3-person ship into a 7-person ship to be as efficient as possible, and that's bare minimum efficiency to be able to kind of keep
7-person
things
ship
going.
with 4 bunks.
With 4 bunks.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up about the C2. Like the C2 has 2 bunks, right?
Yeah.
And it has the exact same number of fuses and components as the A2.
Yeah.
So if I take damage, like that other person is going to be running around out of the turrets. He has to leave the turrets and go fix a fuse. And now my rear turrets are not crewed, so I'm not firing back at the person firing at me, but my shields are down because we took hull damage, or hull shield penetration, ballistic weapon.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's
which.
And a lot of people are saying, well, we need to have armor. They do have armor now. They've just changed it so that they've simulated what it's going to be like when how
does it work, Paul? Describe how the armor system works right now in the engineering test.
Okay, so the way it's supposed to work is that if you have an energy weapon, it will not penetrate the hull. So it will do damage to damage to your hull, but it will not penetrate the actual armor or the actual hull to get to the components on the inside. But if you have a ballistic weapon, it will penetrate the hull at certain areas. So ballistic weapons will be reflective when your shields. Your shields will absorb those a little bit better, but your energy weapons will be more effective at downing the shields and doing damage to the surface. So it's like you can think of it as like ballistic weapons right now are supposed to be like focus weapons, like you use them to take out components.
Ballistic weapons are designed to penetrate.
Yes,
shields and armor. They're designed to damage components.
Yeah, but they're not as effective. Like you have to like really hit them, unless you're spraying a lot of them. And I think that's part of the reason is that the weapons that you're using against the ballistic weapons you're using against an A2 right now is just. I don't have to aim. I just can shoot in a general location and it'll hit. Some of it will hit, So.
Right now, everything's really kludgy, not balanced very well.
Yeah.
Even right. Well, the way energy weapons work, if I remember the patch notes correctly, is that energy weapons aren't supposed to penetrate hull.
No.
But right now, they'll degrade armor.
Yes.
Which will allow ballistic weapons to penetrate. So you do have a hit point system. And when your hit points get lower and lower and lower, more bullets are allowed to penetrate the hull to hit component.
And I think that's always been the kind of idea that CIG has, is that energy weapons are somewhat effective against shields, but when they hit armor, they melt the armor. So they'll actually like strip armor away faster. And if you have armor on, ballistic weapons won't be able to penetrate through the armor, but they can penetrate through the shield. So they'll bounce off of the physical armor, but they'll go through the shields. And so the idea being that the energy weapons will be stopped by the shields, but they won't be as. Once the shields are down, they'll like strip all of your defenses away. Yeah. And the penetrators, that kind of thing. So
I don't understand why CIG couldn't have had this dynamic Star Citizen already, where like they had a general purpose armor system where they could just turn up the damage resist for hull, but everything's good against shields, but only ballistic weapons are good against the actual hull. Because it's frustrating.
But
reasons,
So I think that damage system, like we don't have enough information about that damage system on how it's going to work to really see it. I think CIG definitely needs to dial in because, like you shouldn't for ships like the A2, it should require people to function. But it shouldn't require more crew than you have bunks for in order to effectively work. So,
and right now, and this is also another thing where we get into like whatever CIG's doing change in the future.
Oh yeah,
like what we have right now and what CIG has said right now or in the past about engineering or how weapons work, that could always change months from now dramatically.
and they can change like how much the penetration happens, how much it doesn't happen. There's lots of different things they can work through once they have a lot of those features in. This is us being as negative as possible on this. I just want to emphasize that I wanted us to go for the negative first because I think the negative stuff is more of reflective of CIG's design decisions rather than being like, oh, it's an early. Yeah, we all know it's early. Like there's a lot of problems with it, or just bugs, or just like it's not fully, like all the systems aren't fully in yet.
Kind of kludgy is how I'd explain it to most people. It's obviously this is stuff they've kind of thrown together and it's not working very well, but it does kind of work.
Yeah.
It's a functional enough test. But at the same time, it's worth pointing out that historically speaking, CIG has really no problem completely changing directions for something. Because remember the like half a patch we got hover mode for?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Which was kind of a soft preview for what we're getting with master modes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I remember hover mode where Port All-Star was covered in wreckage after they introduced it because people didn't understand that hover mode would automatically activate when you got close to a surface, a landing pad, and they lose control of their ship and boom, dead.
And that's like where we're moving back towards hover mode, but just with extra steps because we're going to have things like the
precision mode, landing mode.
What is it called? It's something about like curves. It's like efficiency curves for engines. So like the longer you use your engines, the worse they're going to be. And engines that are not designed to VTOL, while you VTOL, will sputter out faster. So your ships, as you start VTOLing, if you try to slow down, like say like a Gladius in atmosphere and just hover, your ship's not going to go dead stop like it is now, like it's supposed to with engineering and other things like that in the future. It's supposed to just kind of like start doing this because the engines are trying to compensate for something that they're not designed to do. So you're just going to start rocking all over the place rather than being able to be just solid as a rock, just not moving.
You can actually already see that a little bit if you go in the current PTU and hover over water because the IFCS seems to interact with how far above the nearest surface you are, but the water splashes cause that to vary a lot. So the thing gets unstable and all sorts of stuff. It's very entertaining, actually.
And that was the whole purpose of hover modes, was just to make sure that people aren't doing the thing with like the most unimmersive thing, which was like point straight down at a target on the ground, just with your weapon, and just pull the trigger and then like destroy them. And there's no being a floating weapons platform. It just
like spaceships be able to do if like. And that was the thing that everybody hated was like, oh, Gladius shouldn't be able to point straight down. Like, bitch, have you seen the mass and the thrust ratios?
Yeah, they're insane.
Like back before hover mode or even after hover mode was taken out, like the thrust ratios on the Gladius were high enough that in order for the Gladius to maneuver a certain way in space that CIG wanted it to, it had to have high enough thrust ratios that it could stand on its nose in one gravity.
Yeah.
All day, every day, if it wanted to. That's how physics works.
Yeah.
And I basically hovering with a single thruster going, and you're fine.
Yeah. So CIG basically has to nerf thrusters in atmosphere to have this immersive experience.
Yeah. And that kind of comes back to engineering, because I think that's also part of the engineering experience that CIG is shooting for. And you can see that when you just, like in the A2, when you get this mode, if you want to try this yourself, go into a map that has atmosphere for Arena Commander, get out of your A2, and then yoink the fuse on the front of the ship. You will see your ship do this. And just start falling straight down. One fuse at the very front, just pop that fuse out, and the whole ship just falls. So that's kind of that sort of thing where, like, you know, you have to have certain, power to certain, like this is basic compared to what they want to do in the future, which is things like repairs and power towards thrusters and engines and stuff like that. We don't have those in the current version. Because they're not. I don't think.
Anyway, that's how we started doing Among Us on the A2.
Yeah, we joked when Spaceman and I were testing it last week. We joked that like CIG could do an Among Us version of with engineering. They could do like an Among Us Arena Commander game mode. easily with ships. So that's all the negatives. Let's look towards the positives. What are the good things that we're seeing out of engineering, or like the direction that it's going? Ferris, I'll start with you on this one.
I mean, the biggest thing is it should theoretically, once more implemented, increase survival times for ships. In theory. The other one is it's giving you something to do during downtime. So if you've flown your whatever over to a station and you're landed there loading up cargo, one person can be running around doing general maintenance, so just repairing things back up to 100%, making sure all your capacitors are charged and ready, and swapping parts as needed. It's something to do, which is great, as long as it's not too much to do. Because I mean, I fly a lot of Drake ships, and I don't expect component survivability to be great.
Yeah, but yeah, it does while you're quantuming traveling. Like you obviously you go to Jump Town with your A2, you fight off like a few people there, and then you land, and a few people get out to go collect the maze, and then you, the pilot, can stay behind and kind of top up the damage you took.
Yeah.
To the components, replace a few fuses, or add a few extra fuses if you just lost one or two. And then, of course, maybe Jump Town gets a little too hot. You can't complete all your repairs, so everybody piles back in, take off, run away, and then pull away from the fight a little bit, get repaired, come back in, do some more fighting. That sort of thing.
You can also, it also adds some more diegetic gameplay. You've got things like the option to be a non-hostile person standing in your civvies in the middle of Jump Town's like base, selling fuses.
There you go.
Yeah. Fuse.
One dude there.
Yeah.
Hey man, you want to buy some fuses?
You can go to Jump Town with your band of merchantmen one of these days, whenever John Paul Jones comes back and work for Chris Roberts, if that whatever the next version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag they put out sync. John Paul Jones
space version.
Whatever space version. He can come back to work for Chris Roberts and finish up the band of merchantmen. So you can sell fuses at Jump Town out of the back of your out of the back of your boot.
Anything else, Ferris Salt?
No, I just think it's an interesting direction to go, and I think the biggest thing that's going to change is that the one-man big ship people are going to have a very big awakening with the requirements of operating those vehicles in a non-perfect environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vertigo, your positives from this from this engineering.
I mean, I like that CIG's finally putting it out. Right? I love what CIG's doing with these modes in Arena Commander. They're putting them out there as experimental modes and say, hey, here's this mode where we're going to be adding to live environment. We want your feedback, and we're going to put it into Arena Commander. Play it in Arena Commander. Here's the feedback thread. Go for it. And of course, people play it. They give their thoughts and opinions on it. Great way. And you don't just shove it like hover mode. Right, like hover mode was just shoved into the persistent universe, and everybody just suddenly it was just there one day, right? Nobody can really give any thoughts or opinions on hover mode because it's on every ship in the game. You don't get a choice, so it allows CIG to see the stats, the numbers, how people are enjoying it, get feedback on it. So I like that. I like the way we're going with that direction, and I like the fact that engineering is actually there. Right? It shows it shows progress. Like I have complaints about it, but a lot of my complaints come down to your number wrong. This number need to be big.
Wrong.
This number too small. It's what the gamers should be complaining about, right? This shield generator number need big. This shield generator number too small. We need to make big number, big small number.
Change armor number. Armor number higher here. Lower here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that you're never going to not have people complaining about something in your game. There's always going to be people like this this weapon too overpowered. This shield generator underrepresented. Nobody's using this shield generator. It's
kind of to the side, but that's one of the reasons why I love the discussions about 3.23 is that they're all about master modes or FPS gameplay. And I'm like, is Star Citizen finally becoming a real game because people are starting to complain about gameplay rather than complaining about development? Yeah. So So it's like I don't like the way this ship handles. It's like, oh my god, we're finally reaching statuses of real gamer thing.
Yeah.
You know?
So I like that. I like the experimental modes. I like how we're allowed to get feedback before it's thrust on everybody. Like cadence. I like that engineering's coming, and like I said, a lot of my big complaints are just like the numbers.
Mhm.
You know, like this power plant doesn't run the entire ship. You have to run it off battery backups, and the batteries should be backups. They should be auxiliary power.
Mhm.
That's my thought on that. But I mean, I like the idea that we're going to engineering. The fact that engineering is displayed for us means that it's coming sooner rather than later. Like it's not 2 years out. It doesn't feel like
No.
Paul. It doesn't feel like it's 2 years out. Like I literally make that joke all the time on my channel.
Yeah.
Someone comes ask me, when is Star Citizen coming out? Well, Star Citizen has been coming out for the past 2 years. Star Citizen has been 2 years from release for the past 5 years.
Past 10 years.
Yeah. And so it feels like engineering
2016.
Yeah, it feels like engineering is just around the corner. Maybe next year, 12 months from now. It feels like it's going to be, soon. Not soon TM, soon.
I feel to me what it feels like is that if CIG was just to focus on engineering, they could get it out in 6 months.
Yeah.
But because they've got so many other things they have to worry about.
A lot of ships would have to get gold standard in order for engineering to be added to the entire game. You'd have to have some ships that would get like passed over.
Mm-hmm.
Some ships are obviously closer to like engineering ready, like the A2, the Herc series. And some ships are obviously going to be engineering ready sooner than later, like the Retaliator. Yeah. But some ships are probably really far away from engineering standard, kind of like I don't know, the Cutlass. The Cutlass doesn't even have components.
Or
the Freelancer. No. The
Freelancer has its components. Well, you know why that's the case. You know why that's the case, right?
Why?
It's in Squadron 42.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Because there's that scene in the Squadron 42 trailer where you see like a frozen Freelancer, and it's So they obviously want to make sure that you could also interact with those, since it's semi sandbox. They want to make sure that you could also be like, oh, I can pull the power plant out or whatever. So,
there's a lot of ships in Star Citizen that CIG would have to sit down, hook up the RIC system, the resource item system, and then put physical fuses in there, and then feedback. Yeah. Like you're gonna I don't like the way this ship takes damage. It knocks this fuse out in the cockpit, which causes my ship to fall to death.
When was Master Modes first implemented? Was it like August when we first started seeing it in the game?
I want to say it was like around. It was a little after 3.18.
Yeah,
we started seeing the experimental mode for Master Mode. It was around 3.19, 3.20ish.
That could make sense. Yeah, so like May of last year, so about a year ago.
Yeah, it wasn't very long ago, but it wasn't like 2 years ago, but it was kind of last year.
Yeah, and I think I would almost expect that same sort of level. I'd say like around this time next year is when we'll actually see engineering be introduced into the game in its first version.
Yeah. It'll probably be for like a couple ships, and then you'd have like other ships that have to be updated slowly.
I could see it. It really depends. There's a lot of different factors for it, but I will say for my personal is that I'm glad it's being introduced, because it's one of those things where I think there's a lot of people who want to be Scotty. I think there's a lot of people who want to be Amos, running around and being like pulling components out and fighting fires, or people being like rerouting power. I would say that's probably another one of my sort of complaints. There's no rerouting, no ability to determine how much power is going to which system. They're like, the engineering needs to also be like power maintenance as much as it is other things, like pulling power from your life support systems to put them into the guns so that you can fire more.
You could turn off other components to like get more power just in general, but you can't like.
Yeah. But I also think that that's the RIC system, which we don't have in yet. So since the resource item controller system isn't in the game, like what we're seeing with the version that's in test right now, I don't think that's fully RIC'd in either. They were working on it, but it's not fully. Like, it's just like,
I don't think we have everything that CIG wants the system to be. It's just kind of like the very bare bones kind of like, here's what we're trying to build from kind of example that they're putting in Arena Commander. So I think we're gonna have more stuff coming in the future.
Good.
Even if we just get the power management console moved to the engineering console as well, so you can underclock components and stuff rather than just being like, no shield because engine need go.
Yeah. I would also say, but in general, it's good. Yeah, things like please put a seat for the engineering console.
Yeah.
I need to sit down because if the A2 is doing invasive maneuvers, you're sitting there at the engineering console going, while you're trying to like touch things, it's like, what the hell?
I think what CIG is trying to do with the engineering console is like you're supposed to go to the engineering console to quickly check on stuff and then wander off deeper into the ship to actually fix something.
But I
like
do
I said,
think
stuff gets damaged way too quickly. Like by the time you actually waddle your ass over to like the power plant to fix it, 3 other things have broken on the damn ship. So
having also like somebody who's like the engineering,
and that's
like,
probably
officer,
why we need the actual seat for that position, is so that you can actually have someone sitting there. But honestly, you have a co-pilot, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't the co-pilot have access to that screen?
Yeah, they should be the ones who are doing that kind of engineering thing, especially in the smaller ships.
And you can have the co-pilot start yelling, barking orders like, "Hey, here's what I'm seeing."
Yeah. I think
the other one. Someone in chat had the idea earlier of having a panel in your Mobiglass to sync to it.
Yeah.
Or panels around like Star Trek, panels along the sides of the ship. You can just kind of pop up and like check status of what's going on.
It's the future, Chris Roberts. It's not like we all went to sleep back in 1945 and then woke up in the year 2950 with the same technology level, except we have FTL wormhole travel and whatnot.
Yeah.
Goddamn future. Let's actually live in the future.
Yeah, and as chat's also saying, like specialized helmets with engineering overlay. I'd love to have a helmet that's just tells me the status of the system, the fuses, all that kind of stuff, just by glancing at them. That'd be great. But overall, I like this direction because it's adding more reasons to use a ship, a multi-crew ship, because it's adding gameplay. And as Fairsalt said, it's in theory going to mean that ships are going to survive more with multi-crew than not, which is good, which is what it should be. You should have an advantage of having multiple people. And the kind of inspirations they're pulling from, which is like Borrow Trauma, Sea of Thieves, Pulsar, those sorts of games are very fun. It's at least engaging to do those. I have many more memories of me bailing water and hammering boards to the side of a ship in Sea of Thieves than I do of actually hitting anything with a cannon, because that stuff is a lot more complicated and crazy, because you have to determine, should you bail or should you repair? And there is a question about at what point do you bail and what point do you repair? Because you don't have enough boards to repair everything. So if someone's shooting you and they shoot you in the same place, they don't make a bigger hole. They just waste their ammo. So sometimes bailing is better than just repairing. And I like that idea in Star Citizen as well. If you had something like where it's like you have the choice: do you want to repair this thing, or do you just leave that off and reroute power to this and that? And those sorts of meaningful questions are great for
the problem with like Sea of Thieves and Borrow Trauma is those games you go in with the expectation of having people with you, right?
Yeah.
And Star Citizen, like, I would imagine the lion's share of the player base plays solo.
I would say so.
It's difficult, and there's people like Burks and Detox and even you, Paul, who manage to get groups of people to play with you. I don't know how you guys do it, because every time I have another person with me, like the amount of bullshit you have to not just from the other person,
but
right?
from the game. Yeah.
Just the game like doubles the amount of dumb shit you have to deal with, because suddenly, that person fell through the planet and they're dead and they respawn at Microtech because, Star Citizen doesn't have have a very good system for like telling you what your spawn point is. You just have to fucking know. It doesn't hold your hand there. But yet your heads up display will give you a dynamic crosshair, because aiming without crosshair too hard, Paul. Where bullet go without crosshair, Paul? I don't know.
Don't ask me that question. I still don't know why that
shooting
thing
be
exists.
Hard. But like it's weird sometimes. Like Star Citizen, they have this weird hand-holding bullshit with like Squadron 42. It's like they give you a dynamic crosshair, and it's just like, okay, I have to explain how the death and respawn system works to people, and there's 2 different spawn points. There's your log out, log in spawn point, and then there's your death spawn point.
Yeah.
It's just like if you call ATC, you set your login, logout spawn point. But if you don't set your death spawn point, when you die, you'll respawn at New Babbage,
Yeah.
50 million kilometers away from your party. But if you log out and if you log out, log back in,
So-
and then you die, you'll
Yeah.
spawn at Microtech. You're just
It's
like,
like-
but I was over by Seraphim Station. Why am I not over by Seraphim? Why am I Microtech?
And so some of the aspects of Star Citizen is like, here you go, little Timmy, let me walk you through this little part and make sure it's easier for you to do. And other parts of Star Citizen takes the keys, it throws in your face and says, good luck, go fuck yourself. Like
Exactly.
It's sort of this sort of the schizophrenic right now, kind of like it's like or bipolar, where it's like it's either like oh you're the wonderful thing or you're garbage, fuck you, kind of that meme, that what was that? Who was that guy? The cook.
Oh, the soup Nazi from Seinfeld?
No. The like famous
Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah,
Or
Gordon
Indian
Ramsay, where he's like,
sandwich?
where he's like, you're wonderful, you're amazing, and then like you're fucking donkey,
You're a fucking donkey.
Yeah.
Hell's Kitchen, everybody. I think
Yeah.
that's what you're referencing.
Yeah. Like there's the meme where it's like the two sides of him sort of thing.
Yeah, I've seen those one. Oh, you lovely, you gorgeous
Yeah,
creature.
you gorgeous,
And everyone's
you're
like, you fucking donkey.
Okay,
It's like
yeah.
it's two things with Gordon Ramsay. Like in one scene, he's hugging a girl, telling her she's wonderful and whatnot, and the other one is like he's calling one of his coworkers a fucking donkey.
Yeah. And that's the two sides of Star Citizen. It's either like coddles you or tells you to get a job and get out of my fucking house.
Yeah.
Let me put it. What
we're talking? Oh yes, we're talking about Bear Trauma. But Bear Trauma, you go in with the expectation you're going to have like teamwork. In
Yes.
Star Citizen, we have this expectation from the player base that you're not really helping anybody. In fact, there's elements of the community that enjoy like the suffering of other people. So there's people out there who want to get in there and troll people.
But I do think I do think that there's plenty of people who've been waiting for this sort of experience to come along. People who want.
Yeah, there are, and I think CIG could do a good job of trying to build up next, like pretty soon, organization tools designed to like encourage, try and change the expectation, change the Star Citizen's reputation into more of a teamwork, co-op based gameplay, so you can have these big ships crewed by other players.
So I'll ask you this question real quickly before we get into the last question. Do you think that CIG should develop these social tools alongside engineering before engineering releases?
Yeah.
Yes, I think they really should, because engineering is going to because I don't think we're going to get NPC crew by the time engineering hits the servers.
That's like most of us we're probably in agreement about like a year or maybe a little after a year. Like it's close. It's just within the next year. So
you're really going to need. And they talked about they were doing like a Star Citizen live recently, and I was yelling at my monitor like organization tools. They were talking about like how they didn't want. They were talking about hangars on the last Star Citizen live with Chad McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how he didn't want to have people trolling you inside your own hangar by accessing your ships and your inventory. And I was yelling at him, org tools! It sounds like we need org tools so you can invite people into your organization. And if you don't like that person, you can kick them out and they lose access to your bullshit.
Yeah.
So you have an org bank set up, right? You just drag this crap over into the org bank, and then when someone goes into your hangar, they have access to the organization bank, but not your personal shit, because your personal shit is stuff you don't want some pleb to have access to. But the org stuff is stuff you don't really care if someone fucks up.
What you're talking about is permissions, which is something you do need for multi-crew. Is the ability
we need permissions
because like there are some people you trust with an engineering gun, and there are some people you do not trust accessing your ship because
I would trust them with the box crayons.
They would. I'm not gesturing at all towards the person who you shouldn't give access to your ship because they'll blow you up from the inside or anything like that. It's not like he's got a history of doing that multiple times over the last 5 years or anything.
Yeah, Q-Pan.
Why'd I die? The power plant went missing.
Absolutely missing.
Yeah, you know how many times my own chat has turned off my power when I let someone do the co-op experience.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else who's on this cast who's turned off my power while they were co-piloting my ship or anything like that. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't turn off your power.
But yeah, like Chad McKinney was talking about, we need to work on like party permissions, and I was like, no, not party permissions. It needs to be org permissions, Chad. We need org tools at Star Citizen so we can start building that co-op foundation, right?
Yeah.
So you can find people you want to play with, you want to co-op with in your ship, crew your ship up, do the repair stuff with, and you need to have like organization stuff, right? Because you have this whole part of the website dealt with organizations that's basically just rotting away that almost nobody does anything with.
Yeah, I think that's an important point as well to point out, and as feedback for CIG would be, if you really want people to do more mechanical stuff, having permissions and organization ways of actually doing, like, organizing people can help out a lot, because I've also heard of people talking about like what are they called, Tanos, the communication portals that they would use before like radio was super common. So you would call down like the engineering with a specific like comm route, so that you wouldn't kind of get cross-fact. So like Captain could kind of manage those things.
You'd have those. It would actually be those pipes. They'd have
those
like
pipes.
actual pipes.
Yeah.
You'd have to like a little cap.
I think they're called.
You'd have like a row of like pipes, actual like 2-inch diameter pipes with like a little megaphone on the end of it, and you have like a little cap you pull off.
System. There you go.
And you'd actually speak into it. And you say, "Hello, engineering." And then you have someone who would be on the other end, which have a little megaphone with a pipe attached to it on the other end, and they just that's how your conversation would actually be carrying sound through the pipe system to engineering.
Yeah. And I think they used they would eventually turn into like phone systems, almost like where you had
wireless, or they'd have it like they'd have like actual
on the
speakers
overhead
and whatnot.
Yeah.
You had actual special operators in the bridge for the captain who would actually like relay orders to other parts of the ship through a system. And he'd actually have to be plugged into a wire. He'd actually have a wire to be turning around behind him.
And I think that something like that, where you can turn your VoIP system into a permissions, and so you can like talk with your different, because you need to have permissions, so you can talk with engineering, so the captain can be like, or the chief engineering can be back, be like, you do this, you got to do this. We're this is broken, this is broken, and so people aren't like talking over each other.
And
in
I
those
think
situations.
all that you just triggered me into figuring out exactly what I need to say. There's too much friction.
Okay.
In Star Citizen to make co-op fun for a lot of people.
Yep.
Like we don't have the VoIP system works barely most of the time, right? And Star Citizen doesn't. The party permission systems, teaming up with randos, all the bugs, the glitches, all the frustrations that go with that. Just trying to play Star Citizen, right? There's a lot of friction there that kind of holds people back from like piling into a ship or committing to like just landing on a planet, taking a screenshot of a sunset and setting that as their desktop wallpaper.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, Paul, I'm not sure how to break it to you, but you've just described that Star Citizen needs TeamSpeak functionality.
They do.
15 years ago.
They do.
Yeah.
But the thing about that is that like TeamSpeak, you can do that in TeamSpeak. What I'm talking about is being able to do it on a ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like dynamically.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can.
If you have a ship that has like 5 people in it, it's fine to have everybody connected to the same thing.
Yeah.
But when you have a ship of like an Idris or a Javelin, you can't have 80 people in the same Discord and expect not to be talked over. We just have 3 people on this podcast and we're constantly talking. Oh, I'm Tons.
Yeah. But I mean, but you also have things like, I would say when you get up to like beyond 3 or 4 people, you're starting to see the people will talk over each other, people will shouting. And if you have a system like a captain, a pilot, a gunner, an engineer, just those 4 people are going to be yelling at their own subordinates. Even if each of them have one subordinate, that's only 8 people. That's like a Polaris. Oh, now suddenly you've got, people shouting over each other. Perseus has 2 gunners. They need to be able to communicate with one another, plus a pilot and a co-pilot and a torpedo operator. So like they're going to need to coordinate and start, maneuvering. Like I'm going to take this, this target over here. I'm going to take this target over here. And the captain needs to be able to tell the torpedo, person to like load a new torpedo or to like.
We can even go to like the Polaris. We got to talk about a ship that's already in game, the A2, because the A2 is going to have a bomber. The A2 is going to have a bunch of turret gunners, and you have engineering guys. Yeah. So you, as a captain or a pilot, you need to be able to call out targets for spaceships or ground vehicles. You want the gunners to target. You need to tell the bomber to drop the bombs whenever you need the bombs to be dropped, because that's going to be a thing eventually. And then if something breaks, you need to have the engineer talk to somebody to repair something. So somebody has to get off
mechanics running around and doing the stuff, Yeah. And I think you hit a good point. Is that like engineering is not just engineering on its own. Engineering is cooperative teamwork, and it needs more support systems beyond just I can shoot my gun. My space laser can now magically heal power plant.
And that's kind of like something that and we have to give props to games like Sea of Thieves that have kind of fixed this issue where everybody on the ship can potentially repair the ship, but if someone has the repair materials on them, that's their job, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be patching the holes in the hull. They're going to be if guy has cannonball, he's going to be shooting cannon. If guy has, banana and sword and pistol, he's going to be the guy jumping across, boarding the enemy ship and cutting them up, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the other side of it is you need to be able to have this functionality whilst at the same time allowing for casual, like, social aspect as well. You can't purely have like, you got to use com discipline the entire time.
Yeah,
there still needs to be substantial amount of trash talking.
Yeah, that's going to come down to like whoever's captaining the ship. Whoever owns the ship is going to determine how tight of a crew they are, how loose they want to run things.
Yeah, but that's also that needs to be an option for the players. It can't be like permission systems is automatically restrictive and those sorts of things. So
and Mersha brings up why can't we just use TeamSpeak, because Star Citizen needs to support these stuff natively to reduce the amount of friction.
Yeah.
That is co-op, right? For otherwise these larger ships, they're only going to be crewed by NPC.
You should never have a situation where your answer is get a third-party tool to do your job for you. That is not a good game design. That is not good game design at all.
No,
it made sense.
Try to keep people within your ecosystem as much as possible.
It made sense in the early 2000s when TeamSpeak was king, because there literally was not the ability to have VoIP running through WoW. And run WoW at the same time. Like the internet couldn't, game systems and the internet couldn't handle it for everybody. So, and it was a long time ago. All right, let's wrap up this discussion, because I think we've all kind of hit to the last big question I want to ask, and then we'll move into the question and answers. So I'll start with you on this one, Vertigo, and then we'll move to Fair Assault.
Go for it.
Is engineering the sign that that CIG is moving players away from being able to solo their large ships?
Oh yes it is. Like 100% yes. Like you could still solo the ships as long as nothing bad happens, right? That's a nice caterpillar you got there. It would be a shame if something happened. Star Citizen is a dangerous place. It's going to be difficult to fly your C2 by yourself. It's gonna be difficult to fly your caterpillar by yourself. I mean, as long as you don't get into combat, but when your shields go down, or you encounter like an Inferno or something, or Ion, it's gonna be definitely really difficult to keep everything afloat.
Okay.
But it's already difficult anyways. If you're a solar player and you encounter like a Mantis and a Cutlass Blue, and you're flying your C2, you're pretty much screwed anyway.
Fair Assault, same question. Is this the end of solo, or the beginning of the end of soloing large ships?
I do think it is, to a degree, the beginning of the end of the solo to large ships, because, like Vertigo said, if you're flying in a bubble, it's fine. You should be fine in most instances. As long as your components are of high quality, you will be able to make it to your destination, get your task done, get back. But both players and NPCs can prevent that from happening very easily. And I think promoting group gameplay is something that the game really wants to do, and you can definitely see it with the decisions they've been making over the last, I'd say, about 5 years worth of content. Is all about promoting the idea that like end game content is getting people to cooperate.
Mm-hmm. I will agree on this one, because I do want to emphasize this, because I think a lot of people are panicking when you say stuff like this, because people will panic and say, but CIG said, and it's like, you can see what CIG says and you can see what they do. And what CIG says is very diplomatically say that they don't want to prevent people from flying their large ships solo. They don't want to physically prevent you from doing so. And then they don't say anything else about that. But then they implement things like engineering and wear and tear, and like the things like master modes, where the idea of master modes was they even said they want to make larger ships better, like, than just choosing fighters. They want to make it so that people are more willing to choose large ships. You know, it makes more sense to jump into a Cutlass fully crewed than it is to fly three different fighters, or fly in a Hammerhead versus flying 6 or 8 fighters. And you know, that sort of thing. And I do think this is moving towards the direction of removing the soloable ships, the large soloable ships. Flying your Caterpillar is fine until you run into a problem, and CIG wants you to run into problems because that's gameplay. They want to engage you in gameplay.
Master modes is going to make it difficult to extradite yourself, especially if you're going down to an outpost. I saw a thread, I saw in the Master Mode feedback thread on forums where someone was like, I had like an HRT bounty spawn above me as I was coming in to an outpost to buy some cargo, and he got ripped apart before he could do anything because he was in nav mode. So if you're in nav mode, your shields are down, you take a few hits, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
With engineering.
And so, like, and I know the immediate knee-jerk reaction that a lot of people who are really, really looking forward to their large ships that they can solo themselves is, but CIG said I can get my NPCs and I can run it. And yeah, that's true. You can. But it's going to be expensive. It's probably not going to be as efficient, and it's going to be difficult to like get all of the things running the way you want it to. I'm sure CIG will do everything they can to help out, but you know.
Again, same answer with the AI server blades that they've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
It may happen in the future, but not now.
Yeah. So this isn't meant as an antagonistic attack on people whose dream it is to do this. It's more of like, this is the direction CIG wants to go, and it's pretty clear that this is what they want to do, because at the end of the day, Star Citizen is an MMO, and CIG really likes people playing together. They want to take you and take somebody else and throw you in the same location and see what happens. Not necessarily be combative, not necessarily be hostile all the time, but just to make things happen, because they love emergent gameplay. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back to do our question and answer session. I do want to take this time to plug my wife. She has a book that's releasing shortly. So a professionally published book called Panic Eyes. It's out today. As of this recording, it will be released for everybody else. If you pre-order it, you can get it to for many people pre-order it today. And yes, thank you, X-Pac. Plug my wife's book. But it's coming out. It's coming out for people who pre-ordered it today, and it'll be out on Monday. Check it out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can pick it up. It's the way my wife describes it is it's Stephen King meets slice of life. So check it out and enjoy that one. So thank you so much to Fair Assault so far for joining us. Make sure you check out Fair Assault and HC Vertigo as well. Thank you for joining us so far. Twitch.tv/Fair Assault, Twitch.tv/HC Vertigo to check them out. We'll be back in a couple minutes. We can take a few minutes break. And for those of you listening on the podcast version, I'll just cut out the break. So we'll roll right into that one. But we'll be right back. There's not an Audible version yet. There will be an Audible version in the future, probably, but not in the initial release. And we're back with the question and answer session with Fairasult and Vertigo. Make sure, again, follow their channels. Send them some love. They do stream quite frequently, and Fairasult will abuse his body for your amusement. So
That's fair, actually.
you did just do a
flagation.
You did just do a charity live stream where they made you just drink hot sauce for like an hour, right?
Yeah, that's very true. I have no defense and wish for you to stop these personal attacks.
It's okay. You and I both dance when we get subs, so but you actually get up and move. I just get to do it in the chair. So, all right. Well, with all of that, let's get into the questions and answers from question answers. Yes, the answers from the chat.
Questions.
I don't want
the answers.
I don't want answers from chat. Whatever you say, chat. I don't want your answers. Because I know you. I know all of you. I know how you think. Manage. There we go. All right. So we've got 9 questions. First question comes from Galactic Command, who asks, should CIG add competition grade off-road suspension to the game? Example, a trophy truck going full send through whoops, a main rough terrain, a type of terrain. Oh, a type of rough terrain. That's, I mean...
Yeah. We should have better suspension for our racing vehicles, so guys doing the DMR rally can have more fun.
Yeah,
sure.
I was gonna say Fairasult.
I mean, but first, can we have working suspension?
Can we have working? What is it? Variable tire speeds for our instead of just stop and send it. Can I get like
exactly?
Can I get some like some sort of pressure going on? But.
Or if you've ever tried to drive around in the Steve.
Yeah.
Make it 30 meters, explode.
Yeah. Yep. But I think they should go as detailed as they can with vehicles, like suspensions, tire types, because there are different tire types for different terrain. Also, maybe, I don't know, CIG could give us roads and or not make every planet filled with boulder fields. Use that new fancy AI tech to prevent boulder fields from happening every 5 minutes. All right. Next question comes from Trouble Magnet, who asks, do you think CIG needs to add a boring but functional UI alongside the shiny 3D stuff for all our UIs? The engineering UI seems to be right out of the holo table and old Star Map playbook.
Like just tap the
like
UI
flat
they're using for flat
like gameplay stuff, like stuff you'd see like straight out of like a Unreal dev kit,
Unity or dev kit or something like that. Well, a lot of the stuff there is just placeholder UI, just so they can have it. I think it was explained earlier when they released it to Evocati. I was looking for the patch notes earlier for like the engineering stuff for a remaster, but I think they explained everything was good. The UI stuff was placeholder, so it doesn't look great. But I had to stop myself. I was saying it doesn't look great, but it's functional. But I just realized it's not functional either. No. It looks terrible. It doesn't work.
Trouble Mag is saying flat UI like windows and control panels, etc.
Yeah, I think we should have some really.
Choice. Maybe it'll be a choice. Like you look at the Aegis ships have a 2D radar representation. Yeah. Maybe they'll also choose to use a 2D engineering panel.
I do think that we also need to look at things like the MFDs, because the MFDs are basically flat panels. They're going to be windows, but just windows that you can look at. And I do think that in the future, a lot of those will be flat panels. But I also know that CIG loves their rule of cool. So while I believe there should be other ways that you can look at something, it shouldn't just be 3D, make my eyes squint because I can't quite see it because I've got a slight astigmatism in one eye. Now it looks like I'm driving. All the UI looks like I'm driving at 8 o'clock at night, and the lights are giving me halos, like it's a freaking J.J. Abrams movie. But but side tangent, it explains a lot. When you see J.J. Abrams and you see his glasses, you immediately go, that's why he has lens flares, because he sees the world like that, and he's surprised nobody else does. So whenever I heard people complaining about lens flares, like, it's lens flares, I'm like, it's a little intense, but like, that's what I see when I see lights. And then I wasn't until like I was in my 30s that someone said, you're not supposed to see light flares shooting off of every light at night. I'm like, we're not? What?
Was it like Picasso or something? There was an artist that had like a visual disability, and all his paintings all fucked up and weird because that's how he saw everything.
I know what you're talking about, but I think he had a like red-green colorblind or something like that. I know what you're talking about, like where his green or his reds were off. Was it Van Gogh? Same.
Van Gogh.
Yeah. Van Gogh. Okay. Yeah,
I mean,
so like Chris
80s,
Roberts has lens flares and everything because that's isn't that how everything just is for?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at through the 80s, were any of those artists like, does acid count as a perceptual disability?
But yeah, I don't like that, and I do think some simplistic stuff would make sense. And we recently CIG has made it so that like tablets are functional for Squadron. Like there's a specific level they mentioned in Squad 42 where you have to use a tablet, and they haven't make it functional. So if you could give me a tablet CIG that has some of these HUDs and a separate, just little flat screen that I can pull up and hold to my face, that might also improve a lot of usability. Yes, it might cost me a little extra, but having a tablet as a part of an engineering kit where people just like, I have a tablet and I have a tool, and you can use the tablet to like pull it up and go, all right, that engineering's broken, that kind of stuff, why not? So, yeah, corrective lens removes most of the flaring from things due to astigmatism, but even without them, there's nowhere near J.J. Abrams levels. But I always thought that J.J. Abrams, because I know he has glasses, he may have astigmatism, and that he just kind of exaggerated that as like an artist, as an artistic choice. Like, it's like, yeah, this is normal, so now I'm just going to exaggerate it, All right, next question. I'm going to start with you, Farisol. We've kind of already talked about this, but I am Caffeine Fiend asks, what's your favorite part about engineering?
What's my favorite?
Oh, that's
part.
An awkward pause.
Oh,
like,
favorite
you had to
part.
really think hard about this.
The favorite part.
All I heard was, what's my favorite? I think I missed a word in the question.
Favorite part about engineering.
I think my favorite part about it, like as a concept, is things to do in downtime. Because Star Citizen, as we know, doesn't have the best pacing when it comes to excitement. I think that's really, really good. I think that's going to be the biggest change for people beyond the pilot in these ships.
Yeah. A quick response to somebody in YouTube chat who's saying that he got a citizen ticket for a kid who was, because he was and they changed it to 18, so he's contacted for a refund and was denied. I mean, just talking with devs and talking with the admin about it, or and if you can't constantly get it and you don't, then talk to your local consumer rights authority, wherever it is, and have them send it up the chain a little higher if CIG wants to play fucky fuck like that, because it is on them. They did say initially that it was going to be 13 up, and then they changed it.
No. Even before they even changed the who's allowed to be there should be like a refund period within the window, right?
They say specifically there is no refund period. It's non-refundable.
All purchases should be refundable.
They should be. Yeah.
All. I mean, it's not like the day of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you purchase the ticket at the booth and you're inside. You're like, oh shit, I want my money back. We're not there yet, right? Where you can easily just reverse the charge.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid. I remember reading about it. I don't know if it's real or not. But yeah. But I know. Here's the one thing that you don't want to do. If you do a chargeback, which is one of your rights.
Yeah.
if you want to do it, but I guarantee you, if you do a chargeback, you're going to lose access to your account. CIG is just
They
going
will,
and you lose it.
They will shut down that account, and you not get it back.
Yeah. So if you have any money in that account, if you have any money in your starships or your paint schemes or anything else you wanted to keep, you do a chargeback. That's a nuclear option. CIG is just going to delete that, and that's the last time CIG is going to do business.
Legally, there's an obligation to make refunds available, possibly, but it depends on where you are. In the U.S., there's not an obligation. There's no obligation for that. In Australia, they have extreme obligations to the point where Australians you can return anything for any reason. Yeah. There's no limits. You can return it they're
not quite that far, but there is
far?
Like very strict rules on what they need to be able to provide.
But it's pretty it's almost to the point where like you can like buy something and then return it after buy video games and return them after you're done. But like it's not.
Yeah. So from a Star Citizen concept, my most recent interaction was that they are required to provide a refund on Star Citizen ship purchases in Australia because of our consumer laws.
Yeah, but not necessarily products.
Not for whatever reason though.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just you still have to have a reason for it. But yeah, and the EU for sure as well has higher laws, and I'm sure it is in the UK, but that's a completely different discussion. So hopefully your friend finds a solution to that, because usually in my experience, CIG is really lenient with those sorts of things. They usually are pretty lenient about that. But I'm sure that the response is more of an auto block to prevent people from just buying it and then returning it instantly, not having to worry about it. But yeah. All right. So same question with you, Vertigo. What's your favorite part about engineering?
Oh man, I like how components are actually going to be a thing now. Like you're going to be running around and slapping shit with a hyper spanner. Ships fighting against big ships, fighting with big ships are going to be like more of an affair, teamwork affair. Like you brought up Bear Trauma, you brought up what was the other one? Sea of Thieves. So there's going to be more shenanigans happening inside bigger ships. And if the rest of Star Citizen was less kludgy and less alpha, I'm pretty sure we'd have more fun with groups of players.
Yeah, I'm all down for chaos. Like chaos is where the fun is. Like one of the things about Helldivers 2 is that like there are 3 stages of Helldivers. The initial Helldivers is you jump in and you just start fucking with your friends. Like you pit them with your melee, you push them off of cliffs, you accidentally shoot them when they make a joke. And then you start doing the missions, and then you realize you've got like 20 minutes left, and there's 14 Bile Titans that are piling on top of you, and you're one guy with all of the samples. You're just like, go, we'll hold them off, and you're just sitting there like firing at like unbelievable waves of just level 1 mobs, which are just wide over you.
You bring that up, Paul, but I had a great match the other day where. You know how the recoilless rifle has like a team reload? Yeah. When that shit works, when you have 2 people with enough brain cells between the 2 of them to actually get that shit to work, it's disgusting. Amazing. We dropped into a bot elimination match. Is that high ground area where you have all the dropships flying, bots get dropped off all over the place, and they have to go up the 2 paths to the high ground where you drop in at. Both of us had 2 of the 4 people drop in with recoilless. We both drop our recoilless. I pulled mine out. I start shooting down bot dropships, and the guy immediately attaches to me, and I'm just like, "Are we doing this?" And I started shooting down all the dropships. Drop, boom, 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 and then he drops me his backpack, and I pick up his backpack up,
and then we swap.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, we swapped backpacks because his backpack was empty. He dropped his. I'm like, he dropped his empty backpack, so I dropped my full backpack. He picks up my full backpack, and we just start laying into the bot dropships. Everything's exploding. It was awesome, Paul.
It's great. Awesome. I have done full auto
autocannons.
Full autocannons team reload. And you just sit there and you pull it, and it's like a machine gun. It's like firing a 20 millimeter machine. It's like a chain gun. It's just
I don't even care if
I mean, you just fire it in a general direction of the enemy, and everything explodes, and it's great.
So not even like just chaos, like just dumb like Game Grumps or like some other like content creator bullshit happening. But just like the teamwork you can do and how smooth everything operates when everybody's on the same wavelength, that's the stuff I want to see.
And that's gameplay. I think that's what engineering is going to do. Like I remember doing a game of Pulsar where by the like fourth or fifth session, that it was all content creators were all hanging out together and doing it. By the fourth or fifth session, I was the captain, but we would jump into an area. The second we jumped into an area, we would see a ship. We'd hail it, figure out if it's an enemy or not. If we figured out it was an enemy, the second we figured out it was the enemy, the scientist was uploading a virus. The gunner was telling the pilot, being like, all right, maneuver this direction. I'm going to get into range. The engineering guy was rerouting power back. It was an automatic reflex. They knew exactly what to do at the right moment, at the right time. And we would just wipe anything that came up against us. We would just instantly destroy them. And it was beautiful to see how quickly people would fall into those roles. Similar to like Star Trek Bridge Crew is the same thing, where people were like, once you figure out how to do those roles, to see them reacting is just, it's insane how efficient you can get with some of those games. And that's the kind of thing I'm looking forward to with engineering, is like you showing up with like a Perseus and someone just like, I'm dead. This crew is going to like repair all of their instant damage, and I'm just going to get gibbed from for this if I try to get too close, because they know exactly how to counteract me and any move I make. Like that sort of thing is cool, because teamwork makes the dream work kind of stuff. So
I mean, it's also going to be fun because there will be moments where you get to clap back on all of those single ship PvP.
Yeah,
I'm a tiny god.
Yeah. Look at me. I am the Ronin, going out to defeat my enemies. Cool. I have 7 people and a lot of guns, and they're all really good at what they do. Enjoy this. Those sorts of things are fun, and that's again, I'm a big fan of the takes a couple of friends out into space and fuck around and do shit. That's sort of my kind of gameplay, so I'm looking for that. So yeah, puny god. All right, I'm curious if they have tools that are going to be physically put in the game for engineering. It's not a question, Access. Yeah. I'm sure they will.
They have the salvage beam thing. They can switch to salvage and repair. There you go. Fucking Exodus. He doesn't pay goddamn attention. I mean, if you put tits on it, he'd pay attention to you.
I mean, do you get a custom load for the grenade launcher? Fill it with fuses and just yeet fuses at the panels?
There you go. A railgun with fuses in it, so you can replace the fuse from the other side of from another ship. You could just shoot the fuse right through the ship, kind of like inseminating a ship with fuses. There you go.
The fuse gun. The fuse gun. You just walk around.
I can
imagine
have HE rounds as well.
just like, okay, so we have, Paul, you know about the Pyro Burst scattergun. Okay, take that scattergun idea and fill it with fuses. So that way, it's a support ship, right? A gun that you can use to support another ship. So when the fuses burn out, you can shoot the scattergun at the ship and the fuses punch through the hole. And if you get one in the right spot, it replaces the burned out fuse. Right? This is brilliant.
Support repair ships.
And we can have weapon charms, right, for our multi-tool repair tools, and one of those charms could be a pair of boobs for Exodus. Like, I am printing money here. I am literally printing money here for you, Chris Roberts. You need to hire me. You need to give me a job. And then for the other half of the player base, like, not judging anybody, truck nuts, okay, for your multi-tool as well. And to make it even better, like, they could be exactly the same thing, right? Except one has a pair of nipples on it and the other doesn't.
Vertigo, I'm going to stop you right there.
Do you want to stop me?
Yes.
Look at the view count. It's going up, Paul.
The reason why I'm going to stop you is because you've completely missed out on the two biggest markets for charms, for things for people to have, which is furries and weebs.
Oh God!
So you just need to add waifus of various species onto your as a charm, and you've got yourself a money printing machine.
You say the truck nuts have to have some fur on them, is what you're saying?
Yes, or they need to be Inglorious 2D anime style.
There you go.
Drake Chun hanging from the bottom of the thing.
Yes, exactly. Come on. I know how good gotcha games are. How many people make, how much fucking money those games make. You know, don't tell me that won't happen. All right. Northern Trooper asks, do you think that the interface and intuitiveness of engineering panel should reflect on what manufacturer it belongs to? I.e., Drake engineering panels are not as flashy and as intuitive versus MISC or Origin. I'd love to see that, but I don't think we're going to see that in version 1.
Like, I don't like how the current panel works. Like, it's a little hard to use. Like, drag the mouse around and click on, like, individual components. Like, considering that this engineering panel is something you're supposed to use in combat or, like, in high-pressure scenarios, like, it is difficult to, like, oh, I want to turn off this gun over here. Click. Nope, I'm not clicked on that. I gotta click on that. I got to drag the camera around to get it to click. It's, yeah. But, yeah, having, like, specific, like, manufacturer-specific UI for, like, Drake or Aegis, sure, why not?
As long as the Drake one, you have to pull it out and it like pulls out of the console.
Like it has like it's like Aliens, right?
Yeah, it's got like a hard like a little like
cable.
Like the thick cable comes out and you're like, but it's not supposed to come out. It just pulls right out. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like it still has like the brackets where it's supposed to be screwed in. You just pull it straight out.
Just as long as it's not a DLC for Drake ships, okay?
That's a feature. That's a feature of Drake ships. The DLC is to buy the screws so you can keep it in place. All right.
Use for that panel that sits on the ground in the Corsair.
Corsair. I love that panel. By the way, for those who don't know, that's a copied panel. It's literally just it copies of whatever one of I think the one above it is. So it's not. It's literally just aesthetics.
That was like at Starfield. That was one of the elements I kind of liked from Starfield, right? For the Frontier, the very first ship you got, I think it was, where you sit down in the cockpit, your character actually physically reaches over and pulls one of the panels over, so you can look at it better.
Yeah, and then it pulls it away when you land.
Yeah,
so
you stand up. So yeah. That's something that Drake ship should have actually physicality. To your character has to actually physically reach out and grab the panel and move.
Yeah, but it's a Chris Roberts game. It would mean that if you could actually if you walked up, you could grab it and pull it even if you weren't sitting down and that kind of stuff. That would be Chris. He'd demand that. All right. Next question comes from and we have questions, but I'm going to pause the redemptions because the
I'm sorry, Paul. Do you not want to do this anymore? Do you not want to have a podcast?
I do, but I also want to be able to eat and do other things today, because when we started, we had 9 questions, and now we have 8 questions. And we've answered 4 questions.
We've answered 4 questions already. Now, every time I come onto the podcast, people always have more questions.
Yeah.
Why?
They always.
Why is that?
They start off. It starts off with 7 or 8 questions, and then by the end, it's like, why do I still have 8 questions? And we've been answering questions for 30 minutes.
And at least one of the questions is, why did I get passed in a race by Vertigo on a shopping cart with a tractor beam?
Don't get me started. I would love to see a hover tow truck so you could just tow a Steve behind you while you're going, or like a PTV behind you going at incredible speeds beyond the PTV's ability, where you're just riding on the PTV. Okay, so I'll ask you for this one, Fairasol. Champasta asks, regarding VoIP in game, with all the issues with server tick rates, do you feel it's better to do VoIP through the game itself or have a companion app?
It needs to be through the game itself. Anything that's a barrier to entry to gameplay should be smoothed as much as possible. However, with the current plans to split roles and responsibilities of the servers to different locations, we should be in a situation at some point in the future where the audio is done through something separate to the main physics tick rate.
I think it is.
Well, yeah. Microservices. That's the thing. That's the thing the CIG is always talking about, right? Well, they don't always talk about. They mentioned it years ago where shopping is like its own little service. If shopping crashes, it doesn't take the rest of the game with it. You just can't do shopping anymore.
That's been like that for a while. That's one of the reasons why VoIP is constantly down, is because it's
its own service.
This is going to sound weird, y'all, but it's not chat. Hold on to something and make sure you're sitting down when I say this. VoIP is not running through the game. It's running through Spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. It runs through Spectrum. It runs through the same service that Spectrum runs through. So, because they were originally going to make Spectrum Discord, but for Star Citizen. So,
it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for them.
And that was going to be how you did your org tools too, was through Spectrum. So like Spectrum.
You would go to the website, do the stuff in the website, and then there was going to be some stuff that kind of linked in to the gameplay itself. Actual, like your Mobi-Glass, when you open your Mobi-Glass, you could change some stuff there, but most of the stuff was going to be done through the website originally. And even when they introduced Spectrum, the idea was that they were going to basically copy Spectrum into the game so that you could use Spectrum through your Mobi-Glass, and Spectrum would be the service that they use for VoIP and for organization tools and for everything. So you can do it in game, but you're basically just using your Mobi-Glass to access the website to then do the stuff on the website. So it would run on the website rather than the back set, the front side. So yeah. So that was the idea. Wasn't a bad idea, but not executed correctly. The VoIP, that's one of the reasons why VoIP kept crashing, I believe, was because Spectrum was not exactly up to stuff. I may be wrong on that one, and feel free to correct me if any CIG members or anybody knows that that's the case. But I knew that was the original thing, was that the microservice that VoIP comes through.
I think it's tied into the server now because it is, when you suffer a 30K, one of the earliest signs is you're punted from voice chat.
Okay. You disconnect from voice chat. No.
Yeah, I think that's the case right now. But again, plans change. Different builds seem to do it different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Vertigo? Do you think they should do a companion app or still run the VoIP through the game?
I'd rather them run it through the game if possible. Again, trying to reduce friction to co-op gameplay as much as possible.
Yeah.
Push a button, you talk to the microphone. Why not? Companion app means you have to download another app for VoIP to work.
Womblissimo asked this as well. Like, how do you get around the fact that it takes 30 minutes to do anything with even just one other player? With multi-crew becoming required, you can't play casually. You can, but with Star Citizen, and this is one of those weird things, Star Citizen is a part, if not whole, planning simulator. A lot of what you have to do ahead of time is prepare your ship and other things. And CIG has talked about, and is beginning to bring it up again, which is the agent smithing. The idea that you can take over an NPC to crew a friend's ship as a means to just instantly be able to kind of play with a friend. So they've been bringing that idea back up. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But what do you think? How do you think? How do you get around the fact that it takes 30 minutes to do anything with just one other player? Start with you, HC Vertigo.
It's like waking up in the morning. You put your pants one leg at a time. You boot up Star Citizen. You just have to accept that preparation is part of the game. You're gonna have to everybody has to get to the same area. Everybody either they have to get their own ride, they have to have their own ship, fly over to where they're going, or you have to go pick them up with your ship if you're close by, bring them over to the area you want to do stuff in. Doing Jump Town, you have to go to Microtech.
It's almost like, and I'm going to say this again, but it's almost like multi-crew ships are not supposed to be casual. They're supposed to require planning.
Again, reducing the friction.
Yes.
To co-op gameplay, it's something that CIG needs to consider. And agent smithing is a reduction to that friction.
Yeah. Then why no planning rooms or mission controls to create org-oriented objectives? Because those are tools that they plan on doing, but they're just not in the game yet.
That is basically Spectrum. The planning room is you have that right now on Spectrum. Believe it or not, you have your own little org page where you could have this little tiny forum that you could post stuff to, little message board in there. Almost nobody uses. Everybody prefers Discord. You can get your own Discord. You could have planning stuff in your own Discord. There are orgs that do that.
Yeah. There's even a chat in Spectrum that you like a live chat you can run with your chat with your org. So, Fair Assault, how about you? How would you deal with the fact that it takes 30 minutes to do anything? How do they get around?
I mean, it's the old piss poor planning makes sort of problem where I mean, first step if you want to be doing rapid content in Star Citizen is after the wipe, you spawn your big ship, you move all your junk into the big ship, and you go up to a orbit station.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just like taking the steps to make sure that your life is as easy as possible. Or if you always play with the same group of people, organize it beforehand. Say, hey, we're going to meet at 4:30, and we can all just bed log in that one person's ship so we log in where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ultimately, the other argument has always been that, oh, I've got multiple characters. I can just save one character in that person's bed. So when I come back, I'm already there.
Yeah.
You can also sell more accounts that way.
Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Yes, there we go.
That's the one.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do think that like Star Citizen isn't Helldivers. It's not Call of Duty. It's not Halo. You can't just be like, hey bro, I'm gonna hop on. You want to join me? Sure. Like that was never in the scheme of things when they wanted to do persistence and stuff like that. So, you know. Less hurting cats, more pre-planning. Yeah, it's not fair. Self-response. Kitty. Next question comes from Iris Dreadtide, who asks, how realistic should engineering gameplay be? As an example, should the repair beam be able to repair components? I ask because CIG seems to sway wildly between realism is very good, need toilet mechanic, and realism is boring. Making complex game mechanics unique to lasers is too hard for us to do.
Oh my god! So I had a flip out over this. It was inside Star Citizen a little while ago, like 3 weeks ago. And I think Paul, I was on the podcast and I brought this up on the podcast last time. And CIG defended a lot. Like they brought up the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse for like video game mechanics: realism, lore, and it's a video game. Because here's the reason why we're doing these 3 different things.
I know what you're talking about, and I hated that response. I did.
They were talking about why they were going to do the dynamic crosshair, and they were like, "Oh, we could do this shit in real life, so it's realistic, so we're going to do it." And they were talking about, oh my god, what else was it? Another one was like there was.
They said they argued like, yeah, it was one of them was it's realistic, and then they said, oh well, 900 years in the future they should be able to do this, and then the other said it's also fun. We want to do it with fun.
There was like 3 different mechanics. There was 3 different mechanics, and they used 3 different excuses. The lore supports it. It's realistic, and it's a video game. So we're just gonna do master modes. That's what they were talking about master modes. They're like, no. It was FPS, but it was. Gosh, I wanted to say it was like we want it to just to be like this because it's fun. Yeah. The realism argument was definitely the dynamic crosshairs. Like we can do it today. So 900 years in the future, we should definitely have this technology. And I can't remember, but there was a lore reason for something.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'd have to look at it again, but I specifically remember watching it and being like, don't. That's the worst pivot. That's the worst pivot you could do is like use 3 different arguments, which are all counter to each other to justify all of your decisions. It's like, just pick one. It's okay. I don't want, to go back to the question, I don't want engineering to be super realistic. Like Star Citizen is kind of sim-like, sim-y. It's not like DCS World where it takes 15 minutes to start up your airplane. Yeah. Like, we shouldn't have that in Star Citizen. It needs to be, again, lower that level of friction for co-op gameplay, and engineering is going to be heavily dependent on co-op, right? Yeah. You're going to want other people to be there to have fun. If you make the bar to entry too high, no one's going to be able to want to do it because it's just, you want to get into laser and go pew pew because that's funner. You don't want to run around and replace fuses because you don't see any cool shit happening on the screen. You're just seeing inside of the ship. Embrace Beam Citizen.
Yeah.
I've always said Beam Citizen is a good idea because it makes it so that you can have more things, and simple things, but in large quantities, are complex.
Yeah, because what's happening inside the ship isn't necessarily as exciting what's happening outside the ship. If you're at Jump Town, it's great if you're on the ground watching A2s fight overhead of you, like you have this gigantic dogfight. That looks really cool. Not so cool if you're inside the A2 replacing fuses.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to avoid the situation that, again, using the DCS example, when you go through the DCS training, for the F-14, the first line the voiceover says is, "Now that you've finished reading the pilot's manual,
Oh god.
please start." I don't want that to be engineering.
Yeah.
Like, how thick is the pilot manual for that thing?
Oh, the
For
pilot's
the-
manual for that thing is several hundred pages.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
You got homework for a video game, folks. I don't want
The-
that in Star Citizen.
And Iris actually pointed it out. It was the realism was the lasers, the shooting lasers. They're like, oh well, we don't care about what shooting lasers doesn't have recoil. We just wanted to have fun. It's like,
Yeah. Okay, that's I remember that now.
Yeah.
Thank you. They were talking about lasers not having lasers having recoil and whatnot, and they were like,
Yeah.
it's a game. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that too. Like,
Yeah.
lasers,
okay.
lasers having recoil, whatever. I played PlanetSide 2. I played Half-Life. Like, we can have laser weapons that have recoil. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. And you can come up with lore justifications for it later, like that there's some sort of cooling system in there that causes the recoil to happen or whatever.
You could bend yourself into a pretzel to
It's their own fucking universe. They can do what the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Like, it's
They can literally call the reason the MacGuffin.
yeah.
the MacGuffin transmogrifier is the reason why it happens. What's the MacGuffin transmogrifier? Don't fucking worry about it.
The Canuter valve cycles, and every time the Canuter valve cycles to release a laser bolt, it causes a physical shock to the gun. So that's why you have recoil.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with the whole, like, I think they need to lean on fun more than realistic. But I also, like I said, you take something that's simple and then you add stuff to it that creates its own complexity. To go back to the Helldivers thing, which one of the things they've changed in Helldivers recently, which I like, is that instead of spawning at high levels, instead of just spawning a big number of heavy, like high level enemies, now that they now just spawn more low level enemies. So, and the thing about it is that they don't change them into bullet sponges or anything like that. But what it means is that if you are on high level difficulty for, say, like bugs, a bug breach, like you have like 50 scavengers just roll out of that bug breach, and you need a fast firing weapon to deal with them. And fast firing weapons aren't ideal for elites. So you also need to have weapons for elites. So it forces players to be kind of like adapting to it. And that's a great example of simple but high in quantity can change how you play the game. It's not like one bullet's going to bring down a scavenger, but you have to hit 50 of them charging at you at the same time.
That's where your stratagems come in, and then suddenly your stratagems are cooldown, and there's some tougher enemies coming, and just like now you have nothing left to kill the tougher enemies other than running around and screaming.
Yeah, and with engineering, the example would be laser fix, beam fix thing is fine, but when everything is on fire and you need to prioritize what you got to fix, that laser beam is going to be painfully slow when you're trying to fix the power plant and then the cooler and then shields.
Everything's on fire. Let's just vent the atmosphere. Unfortunately, your suit's been penetrated because shrapnel.
Yeah.
So now you have to hold your breath for a few minutes for the fire to go out. But if you repressurize the environment, the source of the fire is still there because you got a damaged power plant that's shooting sparks everywhere. So you have to fix the power plant while you're holding the breath because you have to vent atmosphere to get rid of the fire.
Yeah. Or your suit is low on oxygen and you have a certain, and all that is a pretty simple mechanic. You just have atmosphere pressure, you have atmosphere you can fill, you have atmosphere your suit can fill, you have fire, which can propagate and you can put out pretty easily with the right tools, and fixing. Those are 5 simple-ish mechanics in terms of gameplay. But when you put them together, it's, oh god, I'm going to die. And it creates that sort of engaging gameplay. It doesn't necessarily have to be realistic to be engaging. So.
I actually have a funny anecdote today about that. We were literally doing engineering today in the A2, and I had been going through showing players the A2 stuff on my chat, and we were doing engineering stuff, taking damage, showing people like, oh, it does repair. Like if you go to the panel, you see the hit points went up. Okay, that's cool. And I noticed that I'd been in the A2 for long enough that my suit oxygen had gotten low. I'm like, I know how I'll fix this. I'll take my helmet off, and then that'll refill my suit oxygen. So I take my helmet off inside the A2, and I die because there's no air.
Yeah.
Yep. Inside the A2. That's a Star Citizen moment right there, folks.
I mean, in their defense, it is in the patch notes.
Yeah.
Is it? The A2 doesn't have oxygen inside of it?
No issue right now.
Fair assault. Same thing. How realistic versus how much like fun should it be?
I mean, I'm here for Sea of Thieves level of giving you things to do, but not needing a specific skill set to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. God knows CIG is going to introduce skills where it's like you get 5% more repair, speed or some shit like
Your
that.
beam is better because you've used it before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd rather not have that, but God knows, like Chris, don't give him any idea.
And I am all for chaos. Chaos is good. Chaos is fun. I still have PTSD dreams about FTL. Whenever someone brings up FTL, it always dies in fire. All of my runs always end in fire. Yeah. And I'm just like, no, I can't go back to that game because every time I do it, I'm not good at it. I just die. It's like it's my Dark Souls. It's my personal Dark Souls is FTL, and I just could never So when CIG is like, we're gonna add fire, I was that dog with the Vietnam flashbacks, like with the wide-eyed staring at the cake. That was me. That was me going, oh God, no CIG, don't. I don't need to get back to this. I don't need these things.
And this is without chat helping.
Yes. So, I think we're all in the same kind of boat for that one. It's more about being engaged in a gameplay loop rather than like trying to figure out how to, fluctuate the transmogrifier, so. All right. We got 5 more questions. Northern Trooper asks, will or should we get a HAL/TARS/Tremixion to help with ship engineering? No.
I would love to have like a little companion that tells you like, danger, Will Robertson, danger.
If we're getting a little companion robot, I want it to tell me I'm fucked. Like I don't want it to be like a helper bot in that sort of thing, but
Paul, whatever you get up to in the privacy of your own application module inside your A2 is none of my business. But do you really have to make the business of your chat? I can just imagine like this: turn the lights down, lube out.
You know exactly what I was
Paul,
saying.
You're fucked.
When the lube is WD-40, you have questions.
I hate you.
It looks like you're trying. God, I can imagine Clippy popping up. Yeah. It looks like you're trying to have sex with a robot. Would you like to have help with that?
So, I'm also going to say that we're not going to see that. That's not a preference thing. It doesn't matter what our preferences are. Like in terms of
we'll have NPC crew. I'm assuming your NPC crew will be able to talk to you.
Yeah, but I mean like
stuff like
we're not going to have like an omniscient AI system that will be able to change things around for you. Like what he's talking about, it's like a HAL, like HAL fix this thing and it automatically does the job
Open the pod bay doors, HAL. Do that.
Yeah, but I mean, Chris, I had an interview with Dave Haddock for another podcast. I need to restart. And Dave Haddock said, straight up that Chris doesn't like automatic systems in games. He wanted players to actively involve themselves in the actions of the ships, which is why the ships are slow, why you have to do everything. He wanted players to he wanted to be more about player actions and how good the players is at something rather than just having a system do it for them. Which is why the lore says that AI is outlawed. It's really a gameplay excuse for gameplay. So we'll never have a HAL that you can just, there's no Cortana.
That's not a Star Citizen thing. That's a Chris Roberts thing.
Yes.
Every game that Chris Roberts has done has kind of strayed away from automation.
Yeah.
Like you have to reassign all your power settings and like Wing Commander and whatnot.
Yeah. That's just Chris. That's just how Chris does games.
In terms of like in-game AI, I think the furthest they could probably go would be some version of like an AI blade for engineering would like mark locations on your HUD that need fixing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
or maybe
I think that would be about as far as I'd expect it to go, even that I wouldn't expect.
There was that repair bot that they had for the what was it, the Kickstarter reward extensions, like
one of the stretch goals.
One of the stretch goals was like you got like a little repair bot with it. But I think that was more of a while your ship is in hangar, it rolls around and fixes your ship rather than.
I don't know. I'm gonna go look that up now. Triggered Paul.
Ah, yes, stretch goals. Always a great topic to talk about in Star Citizen.
Yes. Someone was
Like
in
the BB-12 or something.
someone was in our was in my chat the other day going through
That's
all
the
the stretch
manual
goals and was
unit.
just like, what the fuck is this? Like, what do you mean? What is this thing supposed to be? And it was like what's the Pathfinder? And it's like, oh, that was the turned into the reclaimer.
Here it is. I got it. It was the 4.5 million stretch goal. All backers back before October 29th of 2012 will start Star Citizen with a Class 1 repair bot in their garage.
Yeah.
And I take that back. Wing Commander Privateer, one of my favorite games, actually had automated repair bots in it.
Yeah.
You could buy them for your ships. And they would only repair subsystems. They wouldn't repair like armor or whole hit points.
Yeah.
But they'd like repair your power plants to a certain point. It was really slow though.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. I'd be okay with an automated repair systems, which are like band-aids. They take their time. They take a long
subcomponent
time.
that does a very limited job of repairing. Because subcomponents are a thing that's supposed to happen in Star Citizen. You can slot in a subcomponent that'll do like very slow automated repairs to your power plant.
Yeah. Yeah. Also,
one
thank
likes
you,
that.
Voy, for that raid. Welcome everyone from Void Stream. All right. What do you think? Fair Assault, do you think we're going to see AI in the game? I mean, you already said that. You said like a blade, right?
Yeah, like the furthest I'd honestly want is a severed blade that speaks through the overheads or your comms and says repair crew to point B, and then put a HUD marker that's marking your power plant or shield or whatever that needs immediate maintenance, maybe for like task prioritization.
So like a what is it called? A damage control bot or something like that.
Yeah.
Like a damage control system, you know.
Purely indicating what needs to be fixed, but not able to do it itself.
Yeah. The classic Star Trek, you know, Dex 4, we have extreme damage from Dex 4, 7, 3, and 2, you know, that kind of thing. You know, dispatch repair teams to those locations, you know.
Red shirts to Dex 7, red shirts to Dex 7.
Yeah.
Wait.
All right. Next question comes from Iris Dreadtide, who asks, how soloable should Star Citizen be? CIG seems to be moving away from any solo play at all, but the game already disrespects my time, needing to go through all the BS of getting a crew together every time I want to do anything, especially without a dedicated matchmaking system, would mean that the only times I could realistically play is 1 day a week, 2 at most.
Yeah.
I do think that Star Citizen will be soloable. I don't think it'll be unsoloable, but I also think that the places you're going to go for high-level gameplay are going to require groups.
Either groups of people in their own ship, like Gladiuses and Hornets, or groups in a multi-crew ship, like Carrick, Akani, Perseus, Polaris, stuff like that. Star Citizen, you won't. I'm sure they'll have like solo events that you can go to, like we have it with like Xenothreat, with like the Overdrive event. There's some of those that you could go do by yourself, mostly because of how piss easy the AI is. Some of the missions are just super easy for a single person to do.
Yeah.
If you're good at video games, but Star Citizen doesn't really Star Citizen doesn't really respect your time. It requires a lot of preparation, but that's how a lot of MMOs go. Like if you try to solo like World of Warcraft, if you try to solo World of Warcraft, there's a lot of content that you're just going to be locked out of because it's designed to have other players with you. That's why they had the looking for raid mechanic in World of Warcraft, so that you can just click a button and no matter where you are in the game world, like you just hook up with a group of people, like you're going with the class you want to play as.
Yeah, and Iris did point out that there's no matchmaking system in Star Citizen. I do think that might change. There is a matchmaking tool that they're building that's for like sorting people into servers.
There's already the guild guide system, which already can hook you up with somebody to help you play the game if you need to. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that for like looking for group, like some sort of like. Well, they already have beacons in the game, so if you want to put down like a escort beacon, you can pay somebody to be your friend for a little while.
I also think that having something like guilds, which will be in-game guilds where you might be able to go to those guilds.
Yeah, party systems and whatnot. But I think the point is like they're worried that like the engineering system is going to require you have to bring more people in, and they just,
Mhm.
you know, there's going to be like NPC crew eventually. So I think the response to that is like, how long is it going to take before we get the tools necessary to help support more solo friendly gameplay or smaller group gameplay?
Yeah.
Because if you want to do higher level missions, like you're going to require like crew to run your Connie, and the crew is not going to be like super brilliant, the NPC stuff. So you may want to have a
think
person in there. Go ahead, Parasol. I've been talking for a while.
I think one of the responses is if you're having trouble soloing a vehicle, your vehicle may be too big.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you want to do high level content, but you want to play solo, then you're looking at more along the lines of ships like the FHC, which is available for a limited time.
Yeah.
Again, probably very soon.
Or things like the Gladiator or the Eclipse, or even
The
like
Gladiator, which is a 2-seat fighter.
you know, like it's a bomber, but like you can still do most of it. It's like things
Super
like
Hornet,
the Cutlass and the freelancers and those sorts of things. I don't think CIG is going to prevent you from soloing. I do think that they are going to lock certain aspects of the game out from people who are soloing, unless you're really good, unless you're let me solo her, and you wanna put a bucket on your head.
I think what we're trying to get down here to is saying that Star Citizen is an MMO, and MMOs kind of expect you to like make friends and play the game with those people.
Yeah.
And the group sizes, there's going to be content for like the individual players, but that's not going to be the lion's share of the content, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that content's going to be there, but you're going to be running that content a lot and over and over and over again. You're going to want more, and if you want more, you're going to have to get a group of people, and that group of people that CIG needs to cater to needs to be wide. Like you need server-wide events like Xenothreat, where you have the entire server come to a location and do stuff, or distribution center events where you have like maybe 5 or 6 people doing like a
raid,
payday bank heist kind of gameplay. You go in, you grab a box, and you have waves of enemies come at you.
Please, I love Payday. The Payday is one of my favorite franchises for that kind of, again, that chaos where like you can do so many different things. I want something like that in Star Citizen. But Parasol, how soloable do you think Star Citizen should be?
I think it should be as soloable as you want it to be, but your scope has to be limited. So like, don't expect to solo a Hull E doing cargo runs and making infinite money.
Yeah.
But do expect to be able to solo mid-tier content in a dedicated fighter.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried right now with master modes. I've been hearing people talk about trying to do ERTs with master mode, extreme rated threats. And then people are saying like it's not doable by yourself. You have to bring people to help you out. And I'm just like, currently in live, you could easily solo ERTs with like a Corsair, no problem.
Yeah.
And like master mode comes out with 323, and it's just like suddenly you have to bring another person to help you out do these missions. Oh no.
But I mean, you also got to think of things like the game space is going to expand. There's going to be more systems, and as you have more systems, it means more travel time. More travel time means it's harder to get linked up with people. And I think there is a concern there about like it takes you a while to get started. I also do think that there is a little bit of hyperbole going on where people go, "Oh, it takes me 30 minutes to get started." It's like if you set yourself up properly, it takes you 5 minutes to leave a station, but that's also requires time and patience and experience, and like it's harder for me to see that because I know how to get to my ship, how to spawn my ship, how to start my ship up, how to take off, how to set up like I have all of that stuff dialed in because I've been playing the game for 10 years, so I have that kind of intuitively, and I do think that more kind of points towards players who are super casual or super new. I think it's more super new players who haven't spent 40 hours in the game, who don't have that muscle memory yet. How do you make it more accessible to them? I think that's really the question: is can we get those players to a point where they can play and support them so that they can do solo content, or makes it easier for them to access multiple people and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So
again, reducing that friction for co-op.
Yeah.
Then again, I also acknowledge I'm the wrong person to talk to because I play DCS on cold start servers where you get into the thing. Even when you know what to do, it's a good 8 minutes on most of those vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iris kind of clarifies, again, chat, my concern is not big things requiring groups. It's that CIG keeps talking about how small missions like bunkers will be super tough and not soloable. I do also think that it's important to remember that CIG is also doing, when they increase the difficulty of NPCs, they're also going to start giving players backup. So if you're doing something like defending a distribution center, you're going to have security with you, and that security is going to be as good as the NPCs attacking you. And every time you see CIG doing content of like PvE stuff, they always give you allies. Pirate Swarm, Vandal Swarm, you always have backup in the form of some NPCs around you. So I think the idea is that CIG is going to do their best to support solo players with the game and the game systems. But there's going to be a point where they're just like, you're going to reach that ERT boundary or the highest level bunkers, and they're just like, good luck. You're going to
there's going to be missions that where CIG is going to give you backup, right? And then there's going to be missions where CIG says, deal with it.
Yeah.
It's just
and questions, will security res you? Yes. They've actually started talking about in the monthly reports of having AI revive you. And if you have a high reputation with them, they'll do it more quicker, which is what the whole hostility thing is about. Is like they'll prioritize to raise you up and stuff like that. So, but yeah. All right. Next question comes from, and personally, I would say that's what I hope for as well, is because when you have NPCs, you get attached to them. Because I can't tell you how attached I got to Marines in Halo, even though they're basically expendable meat shields. I'm like, I don't want them to die. They're cheering me on and telling me I'm the greatest. I feel bad if I let them die. Those sorts of things. People get attached to stupid shit in video games all the time. So having like one dude show up and you see his name and it's like, Willie, and Willie is your backup. You're like, I don't want Willie to die, because Willie might say, hey, it's good to come here. Make sure I got to get home to my wife today, so make sure you're good. That one line, now suddenly it's like, oh no, now I can't let Willie die. And that becomes gameplay interaction and stuff like that. So,
I did used to bring along my emotional support Benny's machine.
So, all right, we've got 3 more questions, and I'll start with you on this one, Fair Assault. Drycon asks, how detailed should CIG get with modifications to your ship?
You're asking the man with a colored mohawk.
Yes, that's why.
Shirt.
That's why I asked
how much
him.
customization players should have over their starship.
I feel like the more customization, cosmetic or further, that they give the players, the more attached people will get to their vehicles.
Yeah, don't say.
I feel like it's probably for the best that they encourage this, whilst trying to balance that line of monetization, which I think is going to be a very hard sort of level to find. Is sort of right at the moment, so many of the customization options are paywalled, which is largely fine for the sort of pre-release time frame, but later, I don't know. Would I spend more money to buy a quantum drive that gives me a plaid animation when I'm traveling? Yes.
He's gone plaid.
But would I spend an extra $40 on my 300i to get a leather seat interior? Probably not.
But would you spend 30 hours in game to get the option for leather seat interior?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good point, though. That's a difference. Like I will spend hours grinding out Xenothreat for a custom set of Xenothreat armor, or like the CDF armor. Why? Because I want it. Yeah. And so when I pull it out during the next Xenothreat event, I'm going to put on my CDF armor, and people are like, wait, does that say CDF on it? I'm like, yeah. Did you pull it off of a corpse sampling? No, I got that. I earned that. I spent
People are going to
hours.
put their glasses on to see the CDF logo on that.
Yeah, it's so small.
I know.
Which
But,
one's harder to see, your ship name or the CDF?
Ooh, that's actually probably a good debate.
Well, when you target my ship, it shows you the ship name.
There you go. So the
But
CDF
there
is
you go.
harder.
Sort of see, yeah.
But yeah, so it's stuff like that. But how about you, Vertigo? How detailed do you think should CIG get for modifications?
I think well, Jesus Christ, there's so many there's a few MMOs out there that have gone like the whatever fucking route. It's like it becomes a blender of like you get like whiplash when you go to the store because it's like boobs, animated cat gifs, cute little puppies, and then you got a thing that turns into one of your mounts turns into like a little police car with a little weeboo siren that you could drive around. I think it was Terra Online did that, where their cash shop was just all over the fucking place. They had like a cross promotion with like Attack on Titan, so you can have like the Titan attack gear.
Oh
with, like,
God,
little
you
things
fucking
that
reminded me of
popped out.
Fortnite. Oh fuck.
Yeah, Fortnite was another good reference where they have like Goku with Metal Gear Solid, and Solid Snake.
You can fucking Goku can fight. Goku and Darth Vader can fight.
Kratos and Chun-Li.
Yeah, that kind of shit.
You get all sorts of weird shit in Fortnite, and Star Citizen can do that, where you can have like a quantum drive, a premium quantum drive they sell on the web store that gives you the rainbow Nyan Cat thing when you go into quantum. you hear the Nyan Cat theme song. You get a quantum drive and it just has this
great until you go into like
rainbow sparkles.
Cross Stanton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of shit that CIG can do here to get more money. And there's a group of players who love that shit and will buy everything, right? And there's other group of players who want more stylistic consistency across Star Citizen, which we already have, by the way. Like, we don't have too many. We have some goofy shit in the way of like the Halloween stuff and the Star Kitten stuff. That's kind of goofy.
But it's grounded in lore. It's not Goku twerking on top of the corpse of Darth Vader.
Yeah, it's not that shit yet, but they can't. CIG can go that way.
Yeah,
where you have the Star Kitten skin for like the Dragonfly, but it's not super garish. But CIG could possibly do that. What's the name of those Indian trucks or Japanese trucks where they're just like super garish? With,
yeah. I can't remember what you're talking about. Yeah, but it's someone where like they like bling the shit out of them, so it's
they
like
bling the shit. I mean, it's just lights, ground effects, lights. It looked like a driving carnival.
Yeah.
Right. They're just like all these charms hanging off on them, and the interiors, all these lights. It's super garish. We kind of have the same stuff in the States as well, where people who are really serious about truck driving will put all sorts of really cool paint jobs and ground effects and lights on all over the trailer will look like a Christmas tree. It'll have so many lights on it.
Yeah.
And people obviously put a lot of money into that. Decora trucks.
Decatura?
Decatura. Yeah, those kind of trucks. Google that stuff if you want to see something.
I want to drive around my Bokuzoku.
So I think CIG should allow some customization, especially of the civilian and industrial ships, because if it's not military, right, you should have a lot more leverage with like customization and what sort of little paint jobs you have with more doodads. I've always said that for years, that CIG stuff like the Caterpillar, stuff like the Constellations, the Taurus, the Freelancer should have a lot more vibrance in their paint schemes because they're civilian ships, right? And one of the problems I have with Star Citizen is a lot of their paint schemes look very dull, very just bland, and they don't pop very well. I like the Freelancer Max's default paint scheme because it just that white and cream, that orange cream kind of look just pops very well when the two colors, they work very well together.
Yeah, I do not think it's a coincidence that like some of the most popular ships in terms of just visual identity are the Argo ships, because they're all orange, just that bright
orange,
Ferrosalt orange, which makes it stand out in a sea of grays and blacks.
I mean, you get into deep space and your default color scheme is like a very deep olive drab or kind of a speckled black with gray or just battleship gray. Like, how the hell are you going to appreciate that color scheme? if you're in space or on the dark side of a planet, because
Yeah.
Star Citizen loves to send you to missions that are always on the dark side of a planet.
Yep.
Can't see shit, anything, nothing. So how are you gonna appreciate that color scheme, that battleship gray and black digital camo color scheme, if you can't see shit, right?
Sell me more accent lighting.
Yeah.
That's another thing I want CIG to monetize. Give us accent lighting, kind of RGB. It's very popular with the PC gamers that the RGB give us RGB lighting for our ships, so we could look.
It's fucking popular with underlighting is popular with like road, like people who drive like road races
round
and,
effects.
Do
it.
I would say that I think CIG should get as detailed as possible down to like interior design colors and interior paint colors, exterior paint colors. I would just what I'd really want to see CIG go for is more of a system where your skins are patterns that come with colors, and then you can get colors at specific locations in game and get skins in specific locations in game, or get them blocked through reputation or whatever, and then you can customize where the colors go on the pattern, but like a primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary kind of color schemes. So people will have the same pattern, but you can do whatever you want to. Someone in game, someone was saying like it's we look like people can look like clowns in their character customizer, and the answer is yeah, because people can do that in reality too. People do that all the time. They want to look. They want to have their bright orange mohawks, but I mean, like, you live anywhere near, like, let's just say, like Seoul is famous for having, people with like outlandish hairstyles and makeup combinations. It's not the same. It's the same thing in places like Beijing has a big culture of that sort of like big weird, like, you don't even have to look too far in America or even long ago when people had gigantic beehive hairdos and other stuff like that. So like human beings have throughout history and in modern time loved to make themselves look outlandish. So why not? So I
guess, I mean, if I wanted to take this as far as I wanted to, I'd love to see like a revenue share program where people can submit nose art for your ships, for example, where you can,
more nose
art that I drew and sell it in game for in-game currency or out of game for real currency. Have a revenue share program for that sort of thing. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
But it would be full of AI art, but still.
Yeah. Really, I don't want a realistic looking silly because of the garish patterns people would make. You could get a Hello Kitty skin for your AR-15.
Yeah,
that's realism. Like
that's realism. And lore support, and not only is it realistic, but lore supports it as well, right?
Yeah.
Because there's the Hello Kitty skins, and because it's a video game and video games are fun.
Yeah.
There's three reasons why we should be able to have Hello Kitty skins for our AR-15s in Star Citizen.
Yes.
Do it, CIG. You cowards.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with those sort of crazy things, because there's also going to be some downsides to it. Because some people will be like, I'm going to shoot that ship if it looks ridiculous no matter what. And the answer is, cool. That's fine. It's a sandbox. You could do that. There's consequences, but you could do that. That kind of thing. So, when it comes down to like detail, like CIG, like go nuts. We should be able to pick whatever fucking brand of coffee maker we want, or swap it out for a cappuccino machine or a electric kettle. I like CIG can go as crazy as they want to, as long as it's both monetized but also available in game for players who want to play the game. Because I think that's the key. Is most people don't give a shit if you can earn those stuff in game, but also purchase it. If you can also earn some degree of it in game, then people are like, whatever. And that's typically what I've experienced with people when someone goes, oh, Star Citizen's pay to win. And then someone goes, yeah, but you can get every ship in game. Well, I've heard a lot of people go, oh, okay, that's all that matters. There's no ships locked out between paywalls. It's like, no, you can earn them all in game. Oh, okay. So, like, I think that's what most people would care about, is when it comes to customization, is and modifications is as long as you can access it in game with play style. So, but, all right, next question. Indofro asks, how do you feel about wasted time in game? Long quantum jumps, having to take a shuttle back to your ship, contracts that require huge travel, picking up on Fairsalt's point. So I'll have Fairsalt talk about that since it was mentioned. How do you feel about the wasted, he puts in quotation marks, time?
I mean, it is candidly part of the game. The game is built to have time sinks. Some of those time sinks are rep grinds. Some of those time sinks are literally sinking time moving between places. Technology is catching up with us pretty quickly, so there's not a very long period of time before I'll sort of be mirroring my gaming PC onto a tablet as I do other things around the house, right?
Yeah.
As much as I don't want purely AFK content, there is some times when that would be extremely valuable.
Yeah, CIG will find ways of filling in that too. Like those are great times for world building moments. Where you can turn on your ship's radio and listen to a local broadcast, and so you can pick up a little bit of the news of what's going on in the universe around you, or contact somebody in the region that you're going to for a job or something like that. There are things that they could do beyond just maintenance and stuff like that that are possible. But you also want to have that travel, because travel gives you a context of distance. And when you have instant travel, it doesn't feel it's distant. Look at Starfield. It's a great example. When everything is so instantly quick travel around, it feels like a smaller game than it actually should be. But you want to say something?
The other argument is if they give us like the physicalized version of Hyper Vanguard Force, I will be spending every single quantum jump trying to beat a personal high best.
Yes, I love those ideas too.
All day. Every quantum jump.
CIG, just have your team. You've got 111 people who work for you. Plus, just do a game jam one summer and see how many come up with Star Citizen themed arcade games and put that stuff in game. So we already have fast travel. It's called Backspace. Yeah, but that won't be the case forever.
Yeah,
CIG does want to Dark Souls you. So.
I think they're gonna have to pull back on Death of a Spaceman, but that's a whole different podcast.
That's a different conversation, yeah. So Vertigo, what do you think? What do you feel about the wasted time in Star Citizen?
Well, with engineering kind of coming forward a little bit, I think CIG is gonna try to as you're traveling, you're probably gonna want to take care of maintenance and whatnot, replace fuses that are wearing out, top up the durability on some of your components and whatnot. And they talked about mini games like you play pool, and because Eric has a pool table. Actually, I don't think it's a pool table. It's like table. The 890 jump has a basketball hoop in it.
Yeah.
It also has an arcade cabinet in there too. Has like a little play area for your NPCs. And it wouldn't be that hard, as Fairasalt said, like hook up Hyper Vanguard Force, hook up some of these little simple games. And I'm pretty sure CIG could probably, because there used to be I remember a forum I was a part of years ago that had little mini games you could play, and you could send challenges to people through their private messages, try to beat. They had this little game where you could kick a soccer ball in the air with your mouse cursor, and the longer you kept the soccer ball up in the air, the higher your score. And I remember sending challenges to people. This was back when I was a teenager. Challenges to people through their private messages to beat my high score. And CIG could probably just license some cheap web games put in there.
Again, I think CIG could build them themselves because they've got talented developers. So
they have people who make video games, obviously working. I'm sure they could slap something together.
Yeah.
Pay those people something. And of course, CIG needs to choose how they want to go with this. Do they want quantum jumps across the system to be fairly uneventful, so I can get up, use the restroom, wash my hands, make a sandwich, get a beer, come back, and I'm almost at my destination? Or they want quantum drives where you don't want to leave your seat because things are going to happen, right? You get pulled out of quantum by a bunch of NPCs or a bunch of players, and now you have to do stuff. That they need to kind of choose a direction there, because sometimes I don't know if I can look at chat in my stream and have a conversation for a little while during quantum, or am I going to be screaming internally the entire time to Microtech because I'm getting interdicted every 5 minutes. Remember that patch, Paul? Remember that patch? Where it was 3.1 or something, or 3.2.
Every time you traveled, you'd get interdicted, no matter what. Every time you
no matter
traveled.
what.
Yeah.
Like, you were
Not
getting
just
at least
once either.
Yeah.
It was
Sometimes it was
multiple
like
interdictions.
multiple times. Yeah. And sometimes it was.
I think one time I went to like Sellen
Mhm.
from Tresla, and it took me like 4 interdictions to get there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and sometimes it's by rocks. Sometimes it's by.
Empty space.
Yeah.
Nothing's there.
Yeah.
Okay, that was eventful. Let's keep going. Sometimes it was rocks. It was like, hey, there's just a bunch of rocks in front of me. Is there anything here to do? Nope, it's just an asteroid. Okay, let's fucking keep going.
I do want to address one question here. Rykops asked, so wait, so the idea of Star Citizen is to become like Fortnite with buyable skins, with season passes and emojis and whatnot? No. Star Citizen, is, as far as I know, is not going to have season passes and that kind of stuff.
I mean, I wouldn't. Don't put it past Chris Ross.
Yeah,
Like,
but
a lot of games have had season passes. A lot of games do sell emotes.
Yes.
I could easily see them selling emotes in the future.
right now the plan they do have buyable skins right now for your ships. But
and they have colored armor sets as well. You can buy off the web store for your guns and your armor.
Yeah, but those are very limited, and like that's kind of the closest we'll see to sort of like those sorts of purchasable customizations so far.
We're talking about a company that literally lets you buy the in-game currency.
Yeah,
from the web store, 1-to-1. Like there's no third bullshit currency you have to spend like some other MMOs where you have to buy like this premium currency and then you use that premium currency to buy stuff from the web store from in-game stuff. No, you can literally buy the currency you use to purchase thing. In fact, I got warned by a moderator. Did I tell you that story?
No.
I got a warning from a moderator on Spectrum because I mentioned that CIG sells currency on their own webpage, and they thought I was talking about eBay. They're like, we don't like people talking about the gray market. I'm like, I'm not talking about the gray market. I'm literally talking about your own webpage. You sell starships on your webpage. You sell skins on your webpage. You sell currency on your webpage. And they're like, oh, we'll talk about this internally. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and chat does point out it's $20. It's limited to $20 for 24 hours, and right now it's a joke.
Not. No, it's not. They got rid of they got rid of the limits years ago.
Okay. So
you can buy as much as you want. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It matters, because if you were buying the max amount of currency for every 24 hours for the past 11 years of development, you'd have a stupid amount of money right now. So
yeah.
Not like the daily limit means anything.
No. And on top of that, it's that money you can earn money much faster in Star Citizen anyways. And I know they're going to reduce some of it in the future, but I don't think CIG is ever going to make it so that it's difficult to make money, because the actual currency of Star Citizen is not credits. It's going to be reputation.
Time and reputation. Time, I think, is going to be the real currency.
Yeah.
As every MMO, if you have the ability to know life Star Citizen, like, you're going to be so much further ahead than anyone else. Because every MMO comes down to grind, unless it's like some sort of cash limited item, like a skin or something, or a special ship like the Raven.
Yeah.
Which doesn't exist in any other form other than that one promotion that they did with Intel.
There's a couple of things. There's that and the Omega.
The Omega has an in-game corollary though with the Gamma.
That's true. It does have it.
It's all the Omega is a special skin. The Raven there is no corollary with the Raven anywhere. Yeah. You have to buy that Intel drive. You have to be
fair though, the Raven is also hot garbage. Like,
doesn't matter.
Even compared to it. I know what you mean.
The fact that there is no Saber Corvid?
Yeah, Corvid or whatever. Some version of it. Yeah.
Some version of it in the game that's slightly different than the Intel Raven one. Yeah.
I can almost guarantee you though, because we actually heard about that, and the reason why it is because they signed a deal with Intel about it.
Yeah.
But that deal will eventually run out. And when that deal
I really don't care about the deal they signed. The fact that there is no like in-game credit purchasable version of the Raven, it pisses me off.
Yeah. I can make that. Yeah. Well, I agree with that in general, with that idea. I'm also not a big fan of CIG holding off the release of ships to be purchasable in game for like 6 months, because the rule is 6 months from the release of a ship to until you can buy it in game. And my opinion is just let people buy it in game. You know, like you're not helping anything. Just let people buy it.
I don't particularly like that either, but I understand the marketing behind it, but I don't have to like it.
I don't think it's an effective marketing tool, is what I think.
I think it is. It helps helps promote the FOMO stuff. Like people want to try before they buy, or people want to get the new thing. They see it available on the web store, but it's not available in games, so they have to buy it. And then they buy it and they're like, oh, they don't refund it or anything.
But I don't think that's the majority of people who buy ships, though. I think the majority of people who buy ships because they think they're cool.
I think, because I talked with Exodus, my org leader. He does this where he'll melt ships and he'll buy whatever flight ready ship is available just to try it out, and then he'll just melt it into his.
Yeah, but that's not new. That's not new money, though. I agree. Like that happens a lot, but that's not a good sales tactic if you're trying to bring in new money. I think
it is if you increase the price, right? Of ships.
Like $5 or so or something like that. Yeah. That's such a
that people
pittance.
have to put money in.
But it's such a pittance, you know, because eventually people will have like those sorts of meltbacks and stuff like that. I think what would make more sense is giving everyone access to a rental of that ship immediately, having it for sale, and having it ability to unlock it in game.
We do have that. It's called Arena Commander, and you can rent just about anything in Arena Commander.
I don't. Can you actually rent brand new ships in Arena Commander?
I don't know. I don't really pay that close attention to Arena. And
that would be a pretty great way to try them out, though.
Yeah,
if it is,
if it's true, but
because more people than I know who will get something like a cutlass in game, and then like when they get the cutlass game, they'll have some like wipe that'll happen in the near future, or even like they'll be hanging out with it for like a couple of days and be like, I want to buy this. I like this ship. I want to buy it. So they'll just upgrade. Because I think more people are willing to part with their money once they have access to something, because they want to show support, or because they're just like, you know what, this is cool. I enjoy this. I'm going to take this, rather than, you know, get FOMO'd up. The idea that Star Citizen sells FOMO, if they do, they're bad at selling FOMO, because they don't.
What are you talking about? Well. They've made a shit ton of money over the years, Paul. Like
they have, but I don't think it's FOMO. I think the majority of the money.
They are recently bad at FOMO because they've sold the F8C like 3 times, and Invictus is coming up, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see the F8C again.
Yeah, of course.
I'm looking forward to this once of a lifetime limited time offer to buy the F8C.
And they've done this how many times? Do you remember the original M50 and the racing packages and stuff like that? It's just the thing is that in general, like the stuff they FOMO, it feels like FOMO is like the Super Hornet. Just like, why? Like, why isn't this available at all times? I think they would have made more money if those ships were available all the time. The ones that are not hull limited. So
there's a joke video that was made by a local group of comedians called Almost Live, and there's a comedian called Pat Cashman who does it. And I'd have to look up, but they did a skit about a carpet company that was going out of business, and it was great because the company's been going out of business since like 1978 or something. That was like the punchline. And we're closing up shop. We lost our lease. We're going to shut it down. We're serious this time. And he keeps building and building and building. And eventually it's like the end is like Oriental, Bob's Oriental Rug Emporium going out of business since 1978. And that's something that happens in the real world. Like you're trying to get people in. So you try to do this FOMO shit. And some people fall for it because it's only available, especially new players. If you don't know how the system works with Star Citizen, and you're like, oh, when can I buy the Super Hornet? Oh, you can buy it during Invictus launch week because that's when it's available. So you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to buy it year round, so I'll buy it now. Click. And that works on some people.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't think it's an
not
effective...
everybody.
I'm convinced that some of those companies are Rug Trading Going Out of Business, LLC.
Yeah, that's just the name. I think they would make more money using just being available all the time.
I don't know, Paul. I think they're making a lot of money right now. I think they're leaving money on the table. Is my point. I think they leave money on the table. $600 million, and you think they're missing money?
I think they could have been made. They would have made more if they didn't.
Okay.
Like honestly,
so the most recent argument I saw as to why it wasn't done was to avoid confusion in the shop. But accessing the shop to start with is a pain.
It's a pain in the ass. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you go look at like the individual ships a la carte, the way CIG has it like splayed out. Can you imagine them having every flyable ship, or even every concept ship and flyable ship on display? How the fuck are you gonna swim through that? Like just like scroll with your mouse wheel. You know how long you're gonna scroll with like you have 4 options the way it laid out right now. Oh my god, that would be a fucking headache.
Yeah, but I mean,
they're not gonna stop offering ships, Paul. You know that.
I know
all
that.
Their money.
I know that. There's definitely not gonna happen. But like, the thing about it is, I think a lot of people point to CIG's success as entirely FOMO. When I think the reality is
it's not entirely FOMO.
I think the reality is that CIG's success is that they really, really have honed in on like the whole build a community that people trust you, as much as people complain and whine about Star Citizen and CIG's being communicative and stuff like that. There is really a lot of trust in the community, and you can see that because CIG sells ships and continues to sell ships and continues to keep people. And
all the whining.
Despite all the whining.
I call it the Reddit effect.
Yeah.
I have to explain this every time I bring it up because you'll go to a Reddit and you'll see people just getting their soapboxes out and preaching like how microtransactions are evil and like DLC has ruined gaming, and you'll see them upvoted thousands, millions of upvotes. And you'll see all these people agreeing with them in the replies and the comments and whatnot. And then you go over, you look at like Electronic Arts earnings reports for last year, and it shows like Tifa Ultimate Team was like a $1 billion franchise, or how like Rockstar has made Take-Two a $1 billion franchise with Grand Theft Auto 5, and the only thing they sell is like the shark cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I call it the Reddit effect, where people have their heads so far up their own ass they need to eat glass stomachs just so they can see what the fuck they're doing. It's people say they deride the evils that exist everywhere and have existed for several years. How these things are evil, are destroying everything, actively ruining their enjoyment and fun. And then you have another group of people who are buying this crap, supporting it, and telling the developers and publishers that we support this crap, we're okay with this crap, keep making more of this crap because we like this crap.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, I think the main way that CIG is making money comes from word of mouth. And I think there are so many people who would say, hey, if I like the game, I'm enjoying myself, I really like this Hornet, there's the Super Hornet available, I'm going to buy the Super Hornet because it's cool. If they did that, they just made those ships available, people would purchase them. But if they go on the website and they find out that it's sold out or not available, they'll go, but I don't have the money in, May or December when this goes on sale again. I don't care. And then they tune out and they drift away, because I'm sure there's an attention span for people. So
I think you overestimate how rational most people are with their purchases.
I'm not even saying rational. I'm saying people just forget that those things exist.
I know a guy who makes 6 figures and he's eating ramen at the end of every month.
Well, it's because you live in insane
Seattle. Yeah.
An insane expensive place.
But he worked for Amazon, and he was making a shit ton of money working for Amazon, working for their internet, their IT department, keeping like their web services, AWS, running. And the start of every fucking paycheck he got, he would blow it within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just rent and like utilities and whatnot. Like he'd have more than enough money to cover all his living expenses. He was just buying like fucking the what was it at the time? The high-end Thrustmaster Warthog flight sticks with DCS World and whatnot. He was buying all the fucking video games off Steam. He was buying all sorts of VRs, headsets, Oculus Rift. He bought like a special 1911 pistol that had the railgun. It had like
the rail.
It was literally called the railgun, right?
Yeah.
It was a special custom made. It had like a railgun, a Picatinny rail on top for like the sights and scopes and whatnot. And the reason why he bought that 1911 was because he was a really big fan of the anime called Railgun.
Yeah.
Anybody remember that anime? But he bought that gun. That was a fucking like a. I swear to God, that was a $1,600 pistol, like a stupidly expensive pistol. Plus, he bought like a like a red dot site to go on top of it too. That was like another $600 or some shit like that. And he bought it because there was an anime he liked watching.
Yeah, but what would
Because
that
it said railgun on the side of it. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
Certain magical railgun.
yes, that one.
But think about this. How often did he watch? I'm sure he didn't obsess over a certain magical railgun forever. I'm sure he moved on to other anime and did other things. I'm sure he moved on to other. So imagine that guy finds Star Citizen and buys and sees a ship that's really cool. And like, let's just say,
he just get his credit card out. He just buy it.
But it's not available because you have to buy it at a sale.
Yeah, you have to wait.
So and then he goes on to another game and forgets to buy it. How many people like that who walked in, were ready to purchase something right away, and then they told you have to wait until May 19th to purchase it, and said okay, and then by May 19th they've kind of moved on to something else entirely. There's a lot of those people, and I feel like that's the majority of the Star Citizen experience. Is most of those people were people who are really ready, willing, and able to purchase something and just decide not to. So that's why I think like the FOMO stuff doesn't actually work as well as they think that it does. I'm sure it's people say it's working because they've got $600 million, but I'm saying like if CIG was smarter with this sort of thing, they'd be over $1 billion.
Well, that's why CIG has recently introduced, Paul, I think you're kind of right.
Yeah.
2 big sales. Well, actually more than just 2 big sales. They have like rolling sales. Like they've had, we're like, what, 4 months into the year? And CIG's had like a stupid number of sales recently.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Paul, I think you're right. They're starting to realize they can make more money by trying to drum up sales. Xenothreat, the Overdrive event, they're selling a whole bunch of shit for that.
Any excuse, but the problem is that they're like, the problem is they're still trying to make it a thing when they should just leave it on sale because people would buy it.
No, you got to make a deal out of it.
Or you can even just have it when you reach a certain amount of dollars spent, it just unlocks the whole catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Legatus.
I do think that, like, I understand why they do whole limited sales for things like Idris's and Carracks, because I do think it's a gameplay thing where, like, I don't think CIG wants everyone to have an Idris because they know.
Okay, hold on a second.
Hold on. Let me finish up real quickly because they know that once they release the Idris, people will go, oh, fuck, I need to spend a bunch of people on this ship, and I don't necessarily want to do it. And, not everyone wants an Idris anyways. But, like, they make more money anyways off of smaller purchases of ships than giant purchases of ships. So, but yeah, go ahead. You were going to say something?
So, I once had Jared Huckabee tell me they never sold another Idris M after they initially offered it by itself during the Kickstarter. And then I quickly went over to the website and looked up the Praetorian package, which is $15,000, and it has Idris M in it.
Yeah, but it's not.
There's a price attached to it.
Yeah.
And Hook 2005 brings this up in the chat, whereas like, well, if they didn't have limited sales for the capital ships, then everybody owned a capital ship. But unfortunately, Star Citizen's been developed for so long, and they've offered the capital ship for sale for so many times that chances are everybody who wants a capital ship has had a chance to buy the capital ship they've wanted all these years.
And you can actually see that when every single sale, it takes longer and longer for them to sell out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can buy Legatus Navium if you want. What is it? $50,000?
$50,000.
Yeah, it's $50,000 for Legatus, but you have to spend a certain amount of money to even see Legatus Navium.
But how many people are going to spend $50,000 on Star Citizen?
Not me, but some people have more money than sense. Not meaning that as an insult. There's literally people out there who are like Saudi oil princes.
Yes.
And they have. They could buy a new.
But how many Saudi oil princesses exist?
Or every day if they wanted to.
But how many Saudi oil princes exist?
Enough to keep Star Citizen afloat for a very long time.
Yeah, but not that many.
True.
It
doesn't matter how many exist if they're buying like new starships every week.
Yeah, because you can sell a lot more $40 ships than you can sell $50,000 packages.
But the math is, if you could get 200,000 people to buy $500 worth of goods every year, you make $100 million every year.
Yeah.
If you could do the same with 20,000 people buying $5,000 worth of bullshit every year, that's still $100 million at the end of the year.
or you know, 1 million people. Like we're Star Citizen's like 1 million.
But
plus
here's the problem, though. Like,
we're way off the topic, by the way.
I
We're in the weeds.
Tell you
We've been
what,
in the weeds
Paul.
for a while.
Let's go on to the next question because you want to get this done sooner
Well,
rather
here's
than later.
here's the thing. It was an interesting conversation. The reason why I'm like,
That
let's
is
continue
really
to go
interesting conversation.
because we only have one question left. That's the reason why I was letting us go into the weeds a little bit, but because I actually had a conversation about this recently with my chat about like how I think monetization, I think CIG is messing up monetization more than that. Like I think that they.
But you're not going to have,
this.
if someone pays $45 for a video game,
Yeah.
chances are they're not going to have the income to continue supporting that game for much longer,
True.
right? And you're going to have people who are going to spend $45 on a game and they're not going to play it for very long and they're going to move on to something else. What you want is, and we're basically describing
Whales.
how gacha games work.
Yeah. Whales.
Right?
You want people.
You
who
want
are gonna
whales.
spend
You
more
want
money.
people who are going to be addicted to your game. They're not going to leave it. You're going to monopolize their time. You're going to have dailies and weeklies that you have to log in to complete. And that's why they have dailies and weekly tasks, to give you something to log in, to give you a reason to log in and actually do something. And they give you rewards for completing those daily and weekly tasks to activate the monkey neurons in your head,
Yes.
to give that dopamine. So you feel good about yourself. They give you easy tasks to do. And then you're maybe going to go look at the web store, see what's viable. Like, oh, what do you do? Any cool new deals for like the waifu I like to play with all the time?
Yeah. All right.
So you're going to want to go for the medium spenders, the heavy spenders. Those are the people that you want in your MMO to keep yourself afloat.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely an argument for those things, and that's an entire conversation and what Star Citizen's monetization model should be going forward. Because I think the one thing that everyone agrees on is that what CIG is doing currently right now is not long-term sustainable. I think there's at a certain point CIG is going to have to figure out a way of making money that isn't just exclusive to ships. I don't think ships will ever go away. I think everyone agrees. Anyone who's been with this project for long enough can know that when CIG said, we're not going to sell ships when Star Citizen launches, that's bullshit.
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not going to stop selling ships. That's how they made the lion's share of their money.
No, there's not going to happen. Never going to happen. They're going to keep selling ships, and they're going to break that promise. That promise is, you can consider it broken. Just because CIG has when CIG made that promise, there were 20 people in a basement. There are now 1,100 people over like 2 continents. In 4 different countries. So, yeah. All right. The last question we have is from M. Walker, who asks, do you think components will be limited to ship type, i.e. military has only military ships? What do you think, Farisol?
Ooh.
No, I don't. I think there may be a reputation system gating them, but I don't think it'll be a compatibility gate.
Okay. So it's just more of a rep kind of gate rather than being able to use it. Farisol. Vertigo?
Hi.
Your thoughts?
So this was a thing a long time ago where CIG said they would lock certain ships out of certain components, because there's you have the type of components and you have the class. Class is like ABCD, and then you type is like civilian, military, stealth, industrial, and competition.
I'll be right back. Yeah, industrial and competition.
So you have those 5 components you can choose from, those type of components. And I think recently, not even recently, like a couple of years ago, CIG said they got away with they were going to do away with that system. I don't know why they said they were going to do away with it, but I knew it was going to be too difficult because they didn't want like a military fighter equipping competition components. They wanted competition components for the actual racing ships, because the competition components were to help racing ships race better. But
yeah,
I think it was a good idea. Like, racing ships can only carry racing components.
I think it's more guided that you wouldn't be best off equipping it, like min-maxing side of things. You'd be best off not equipping a racing component in your F8C because it's not going to perform the role that's designed for. Like, equip a racing shield, which is barely present.
Yeah, and like obviously, like, okay, we can put military components, which are like the best components, on our industrial ships. So suddenly our industrial ships have the best shield capacity bullshit compared to anyone else.
Not that you can run all the components at the same time right now anyway. But
No.
that's a scroll back earlier in the video problem.
Yeah, that's talking about components and functionality for that. That's the very beginning of the video.
But yeah, I mentioned when CIG kind of did away with the idea that individual certain ships were going to only have certain components.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
And they think they're even changing the grade system, the A, B, C, D. I think that's all getting changed too, because they want to kind of change things up. One of the big things that's going to happen that I think
everything's changing.
Yeah, Star Citizen. But one of the things I think that the people need to brace for is CIG will sooner rather than later wipe, and then after the wipe, they'll say, "Congratulations, all of the A components are gone from stores. You can either find them on ships."
Yeah, I remember them talking about that. There was rumor going around that they wanted the highest grade components were going to be found on out by loot. You're essentially going to have to loot that.
Yeah, you're either gonna have to loot them, or they're gonna be held behind reputation gates. So you're gonna have to grind out reputation for specific things. Like, would you take them off ships? You'd have to either take them off ships, which means that they're damaged and they're not
or you're
insured.
gonna have to find some way to disable a ship with like a distortion weapon to keep the components in pristine condition.
Yeah. Yep.
Or you're gonna have to be very surgical in how you destroy ships.
Several posts saying some ships will have only industrial or won't be able to equip with military components. That if that's even from CIG employees, that's probably not going to be a thing anymore. Like, that's changed dramatically from what's happened. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. I think every component it'll be component size will matter, and then the status of the component, how good the component is going to determine how you access it, and I think it will be reputation based, some way, shape, or form. I don't think it'll be Elite Dangerous Engineers level of grind, but there'll definitely be a grind associated with those things, and people will sell them for like in game or real cash. It's going to happen because it's how they'll do it, and it'll have a value to it. But it'll also mostly, you can't pull out your credit card and just swipe and get the cool thing. You're going to have to do that sort of thing. So. All right, that's the last question. Thank you for Fairasol. Thank you, Vertigo, for coming in and talking. And we're going to be calling it here. If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that follow button on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Like the video if you liked it. And hit the little bell icon to be notified when these are released and when we go live. We tend to do these on Thursdays at, the new time is 4 p.m. Eastern. No, 5 p.m. Eastern. No, it's 4 p.m. Eastern. 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm trying to remember exactly the time because it's 3 p.m. my times when we start. So 4 p.m. Eastern, which is 1 p.m. Pacific. So we do this so that we can have, so I can let people from the EU who have struggles to come on to the captain's table, because usually when we started in the old time, it was starting at like midnight or 1 a.m. their time. Now it's a little bit like later in the evening for them. For Fairasol, I know it's ungodly early in the morning. It's like,
it was 6 a.m. That's okay.
It's not too bad.
Ish.
You know, 6 a.m. on a Saturday is a little rough, or Sunday's a little rough, but it's not too bad. Yeah, and of course I'm going to take this last time to also plug my wife's book a little bit. So for you who haven't had a chance to, if you didn't know about this, my wife, Camilla Shelley, is an author, and her first professionally published book is released today for people who pre-ordered it, and it'll be out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble on Monday. It's just paperback. I do believe that they're going to introduce the Kindle version, and then we're going to have to do an Audible version will happen at some point as well soon. Like an audiobook version will happen at some point, probably a few weeks later. But make sure to pick it up. It's good. Be great for you to pick it up, and if you do, leave reviews and everything like that. And if you're listening to this on the audio on the podcast version, make sure you subscribe for it, or follow us and give us a little rating. That helps out a lot as well. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.